Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into February 1888, into a marriage that's already cracked, into a house built on borrowed money and dying dreams, into the moment when a sore throat becomes a death sentence. Drop your city and local time in the comments. I want to know where you're watching from while I tell you about a 21-year-old woman who's about to lose everything. Her husband, her health, her future, all because of bacteria smaller than the dust on her kitchen table. Now settle in, get comfortable. Because you're about to watch a disease destroy a man from the inside out, slowly, over months, through paralysis so complete he can't button his own shirt, through pain so constant his wife becomes his nurse, through recovery so incomplete he'll limp for the next 60 years. You're standing in the kitchen of your claim shanty, the Smet Dakota Territory. February 13th, 1888. Your name is Laura Wilder, and you're cooking birthday dinner for a husband who's about to die. Not immediately, not dramatically, just slowly, over weeks, while you watch helpless. The shanty smells wrong, damp, mouldy. The walls are insulated with old newspaper that's been absorbing moisture for years. Every breath tastes thick, heavy, like inhaling decay. You've complained about it. Almanzo says it's fine, says you're being particular, says frontier living means accepting discomfort. But discomfort and poison aren't the same thing. Listen to the sounds, wind screaming around corners, boards creaking as they contract in cold. Your daughter Rose coughing in the bedroom. She's 14 months old. Too young to understand why Mama looks worried, why Papa keeps shivering despite sitting next to the stove. Almanzo has been cold for months. Can't get warm no matter how many layers he wears, no matter how close he sits to the fire. His body temperature regulation is failing. Sign of something wrong, something deeper than winter chill. But doctors are expensive and money is scarce, and farmers ignore symptoms until ignoring becomes impossible. The birthday dinner is simple: salt pork, potatoes, bread you baked this morning, no cake. Sugar costs money you don't have. You're 3 years into marriage, 3 years into the 3-year promise, 3 years into discovering that every year brings new disaster. Hail in 1886, drought in 1887, and now 1888 will bring disease that makes those losses look merciful. Here's what you need to understand. You're already exhausted, already stretched thin, already caring for toddler in house that makes her sick, already managing finances from farm that doesn't profit, already supporting husband whose optimism is starting to feel like delusion. And now you're getting sick too. Your throat burns. Started this morning. Sharp pain when you swallow. You've ignored it. Wives ignore pain. Have to. Work doesn't stop for sore throats. Meals must be cooked. Children must be tended. Husbands must be fed. Personal suffering is luxury you can't afford. But this pain is different. Sharper. Deeper. The kind of pain that tastes metallic, that makes swallowing feel like knife blades, that radiates into your ears and jaw and makes your head pound with every heartbeat. Almanzo sits at the table. His face is flushed. Fever bright, eyes glassy. He's been fighting cold for 2 weeks. Thought it was minor, thought it would pass. Thought his body was strong enough to overcome anything. He was wrong. You set the plate in front of him. He doesn't eat, just stares. His throat is swelling. You can see it. The way he keeps touching his neck. The way he swallows carefully. Like testing whether the passage still works. Whether air can still get through. Rose cries from the bedroom. That wet, rattling cry of child with respiratory infection. You move to get her. Your legs feel heavy. Your head spins. Fever climbing. Body temperature rising to fight infection that's already winning. You pick up Rose. She's hot, burning. Her breathing is laboured, thick. You can hear congestion in her chest, can feel her tiny heart racing. Panic floods your system. Not for yourself, for her. Babies die from respiratory infections, die routinely, die easily, die despite every desperate prayer and folk remedy and mother's love. Almanzo's brother Royal arrives at dusk. He's come to help with chores. Almanzo hasn't been managing well, has been too weak, too cold, too exhausted from fighting whatever illness is slowly consuming him. Royal takes one look at all three of you, and his face goes pale. He knows sick when he sees it. He's lived through frontier diseases, watched neighbours die, attended funerals for children, knows that fever and cough and swollen throat add up to something specific, something deadly. He asks if you've seen Doctor. You haven't. Can't afford it. Doctor visits cost $2. $2 is week's groceries. $2 is seed for spring planting. $2 is money you don't have for illness that might pass on its own. Except this illness won't pass. Royal leaves. Comes back 2 hours later with Doctor. You didn't ask him to fetch Doctor. Didn't authorise the expense. But Royal is frightened enough to spend his own money. Frightened enough to force help on brother who's too stubborn to ask for it. Doctor examines Almanzo first. Looks in throat. Listens to chest. Takes temperature. His face is carefully neutral. Professional. The expression doctors wear when they're seeing something bad. Something they can't fix. Something that might kill you despite their training. He examines you next. Same careful neutrality. Same professional mask. Same recognition of threat. Then Rose. He spends longest on Rose. Checks her carefully. Thoroughly. His hands are gentle, but his eyes are worried. He steps back. Washes his hands in the basin. Dries them slowly. The way people do when they're preparing to deliver bad news. When they need extra seconds to choose words carefully. The diagnosis comes quiet, simple, devastating. Diphtheria. The word drops like stone into still water. Ripples spread. You understand what it means. Everyone on the frontier understands. Diphtheria kills children. Kills them routinely. Kills them despite treatment. Chokes them slowly as the membrane grows in their throat. Blocks air. Stops breathing. Turns living child into tiny corpse in matter of days. Rose must leave. Must be taken to grandmother's house. Must be isolated from you and Almanzo before exposure becomes infection. Before infection becomes death. She's young enough that if she hasn't caught it yet, distance might save her. But you and Almanzo are already dying. Doctor explains the progression. The bacteria produces toxin. The toxin damages tissue, creates membrane in throat, grey-white coating that grows thicker, blocks airway, can suffocate you, can stop your heart, can paralyse your nerves. There's no cure, no antitoxin yet. That's being developed in Europe but won't reach Dakota Territory for years. All Doctor can do is supportive care, rest, fluids, prayer, and fumigation after. If you survive, if the house survives. Everything must be fumigated, boiled, burned. The bacteria lingers, waits, can infect next person who enters, can kill family after family if proper precautions aren't taken. Royal takes Rose that night. She cries, reaches for you. Doesn't understand why Mama won't hold her, why Papa won't kiss her goodbye. She's too young to understand quarantine, too young to understand that love sometimes means distance, that protection sometimes looks like abandonment. The door closes. Rose is gone. The house feels larger, emptier, colder. You're alone with Almanzo and disease and the knowledge that one or both of you might not survive this. You collapse into chair. The fever is climbing higher. Your throat is closing. Swallowing is agony. Breathing is effort. Every inhale burns. Every exhale rattles. Your body is fighting war it doesn't know how to win. Almanzo is worse. His fever is higher. His breathing more laboured. His throat more swollen. He can barely speak. Can barely swallow water. He lies on the bed staring at ceiling with eyes that see something beyond this room. Beyond this moment. Maybe seeing death. Maybe seeing future without him. Maybe just hallucinating from fever that's cooking his brain. Royal returns. He'll nurse you both. Will stay until crisis passes. Until you're both dead or both recovered or some combination that leaves family shattered. He makes you drink water. Forces it despite pain. Hydration is critical. Bodies fighting infection need fluids. Need fuel. Need everything you can give them even when giving feels impossible. That night is endless. Fever dreams mix with reality. You can't tell which is which. Can't separate hallucination from memory from fear. Time becomes fluid. Minutes stretch to hours. Hours collapse to seconds. You're drowning in your own body, choking on membrane growing in throat, fighting for every breath. Somewhere in the darkness, Almanzo is fighting the same war. You can hear him. Laboured breathing, occasional cough, the wet, rattling sound of lungs filling with fluid. The sound that means pneumonia is joining diphtheria. That means complications are multiplying. That means survival is becoming less likely with every passing hour. And in grandmother's house, Rose sleeps, safe for now, protected by distance, but waiting, always waiting. For parents who might not come back, for family that might not survive, for future that's being decided by bacteria too small to see, but powerful enough to destroy everything. Morning comes, you're still alive. That's victory enough. You're lying in bed listening to Almanzo breathe. Each breath is battle. Each inhale sounds wet, thick, like drowning from inside. The diphtheria membrane is growing. You can hear it in the quality of his breathing, can sense it in the way he struggles. Your own throat is fire. Swallowing is impossible. You've stopped trying. Just let saliva pool in your mouth. Let it drip onto the pillow. Dignity is luxury for people who aren't dying. February light filters through ice-covered windows. Weak, grey. Winter light that barely qualifies as illumination. The shanty is cold despite the stove burning constantly. Royal keeps it fed, keeps water boiling for steam. Humid air helps breathing, makes the membrane less likely to completely block airways. But steam can't cure bacterial infection, can't neutralize toxin, can't save you from disease that's killed thousands. Royal brings broth, thin, salty, made from yesterday's salt pork boiled with potatoes. It's not nutrition, just liquid. Just something to keep your bodies functioning while they fight, while they try to survive poisoning from within. You manage 3 sips before your throat rebels. The pain is beyond description, beyond anything you've experienced. Makes childbirth look gentle, makes hailstorm destroying crops look trivial. This is internal war. This is body attacking itself, trying to defend itself. Almanzo doesn't eat. Can't. His throat is too swollen. Royal tries to spoon broth between his lips, but it runs back out. He's too weak to swallow, too sick to coordinate the muscles required for the simple act of getting liquid from mouth to stomach. This is how people die from diphtheria. Not from the bacteria directly, from complications, from inability to eat or drink, from dehydration, from starvation while food sits inches away. From suffocation while air surrounds them. Royal sits between your beds. He's exhausted. You can see it. Dark circles under eyes, face drawn. He's been awake for 36 hours, nursing 2 people, maintaining fire, boiling water, preparing food, cleaning. The endless labour of keeping dying people marginally alive. He's risking his own life being here. Diphtheria is contagious, highly contagious, spread through respiratory droplets. Every cough, every breath, every moment in this room increases his exposure, increases chance he'll catch it. He'll die too. But he stays, because family, because duty, because on the frontier you don't abandon people, even when abandoning might save your own life. Days blur together. You can't track time, can't separate Tuesday from Wednesday from Thursday. Time becomes measured in different metrics. Number of breaths, number of sips of water, number of times you wake wondering if Almanzo is still breathing. Fever dreams are vivid, terrible. You see your father's face, your mother's hands, Mary's blind eyes. You see wheat fields burning, houses collapsing, babies dying. You see every fear you've ever had manifesting in hallucination form. Your brain is cooking, temperature high enough to damage tissue, high enough to cause permanent harm if fever doesn't break soon. But fever doesn't care about your preferences, doesn't respond to hope, just burns until infection is defeated or until you're dead. Those are the only two options. Somewhere around day 5, the fever breaks, yours first. You wake and the world is clearer, sharper, the fever fog has lifted, your throat still burns but the membrane is shrinking. Your body is winning. Slowly, painfully, but winning. You look over at Almanzo. He's still fighting, still feverish, still struggling for every breath. His case is worse. Doctor said so. Doctor said his exposure was heavier, said his immune system was already compromised from months of being too cold, too stressed, too worn down by 3 years of farming disasters. You try to sit up. Can't. Too weak. Your muscles have atrophied from days in bed, from days of not eating, from days of body consuming itself for fuel to fight infection. You're skeletal. You can feel bones that you couldn't feel before. Ribs, hips, collarbones. You've lost dangerous amount of weight, but you're alive. Royal helps you drink, real drink this time, not just sips, actual swallows. Your throat still hurts, but the worst is past. The membrane is dissolving, being absorbed, being cleared by immune system that finally figured out how to fight this specific threat. He tells you Rose is fine, staying with your parents, hasn't developed symptoms, the separation worked, she's been spared. That knowledge is relief so profound it's almost painful. Your daughter will live. Whatever happens to you and Almanzo, Rose survives. Almanzo's fever breaks on day 7. He wakes confused, disoriented. His eyes don't focus properly. His words are slurred. The fever has done damage. You can see it, can sense it in the way he moves, the way he struggles to coordinate simple actions. But he's alive. That's what matters. You're both alive. Both survived disease that kills half its victims. Both made it through bacterial infection with no real treatment beyond rest and luck. The fumigation begins immediately. Royal heats sulphur in pan, the smoke fills the shanty, burns your eyes, burns your recovering throat, but it's necessary. It kills the bacteria, purifies the air, makes the space safe for Rose to return. Everything must be washed, boiled, blankets, sheets, clothes, anything that touched you while infected, anything that might harbour bacteria. The work is exhausting. You're too weak to help. Can only watch while Royal works, while he scrubs and boils and burns. 3 days later, Rose comes home. She's grown. You can see it. 2 weeks is a long time for toddler. She's changed, walking better, talking more, living despite her parents' crisis. She doesn't recognize you at first. You're too thin, too weak, too changed by illness. But then she sees your face, sees recognition, sees love, and she runs to you, falls into your arms, crying, clinging, desperate for mother who disappeared for 2 weeks. You hold her carefully. Your strength is limited, but you hold her. Finally, after 2 weeks of separation, after 2 weeks of fighting to survive so you could hold her again. The crisis is over. You've survived diphtheria, both of you, against odds, against death that claimed so many others. But survival isn't recovery. Survival is just not dying. And what Almanzo doesn't know yet, what none of you know yet, is that the real nightmare hasn't started. The toxin is still working, still damaging nerves, still destroying tissue, still preparing the catastrophe that will define the rest of his life. The stroke of paralysis is waiting, building, preparing to strike, and when it does, survival will feel like the cruelest joke of all. You're standing at the stove making breakfast. March 1888, 3 weeks after fever broke, 3 weeks after doctor declared you both recovered, 3 weeks of slowly rebuilding strength, slowly learning to eat solid food again, slowly pretending everything is fine, except everything isn't fine. Almanzo is different. You can see it, feel it. The way he moves is changed, slower, more careful, like man testing ground before trusting it to hold weight. His hands shake when he picks up coffee cup. Slight tremor, barely noticeable, but there. He complains about being cold, still, constantly. Despite March bringing warmer temperatures, despite fire burning, despite wearing layers, his body temperature regulation is broken. Fever damaged something that hasn't healed, but he's working again, insists on it. Can't afford to rest longer. Spring planting is coming. Fields need preparation. Equipment needs maintenance. Farmers don't get sick days, don't get recovery time. They work or they starve. Those are the only options. Royal left yesterday. Returned to his own farm, his own life. He nursed you both for 3 weeks. Lost 3 weeks of his own work, lost income, lost time. But family obligation is deeper than money. You survive together or die together. There's no middle ground on the frontier. You crack eggs into skillet. The sizzle is comforting, normal sound, kitchen sound, the sound of life continuing despite disaster, despite disease, despite everything that tried to kill you. Rose is playing with wooden blocks in corner. She's happy, healthy, oblivious to how close she came to losing both parents. Children that age don't understand death, don't grasp permanence. To her, you were just gone. Now you're back. That's all that matters. Almanzo comes inside from barn. He's breathing hard, too hard for short walk. His face is pale, sweat on forehead despite morning chill. Something is wrong. He sits at table heavily, doesn't speak, just sits, staring. His eyes are distant, unfocused, the look of someone whose body is failing in ways he doesn't understand yet. You put plate in front of him, he picks up fork, drops it, picks it up again. His fingers aren't coordinating properly. Fine motor control is impaired. He doesn't say anything, doesn't want to admit weakness. Farmers don't admit weakness. It's rule, it's code, it's the lie that keeps them functioning. He eats slowly, carefully, every movement deliberate. Like relearning basic skills, like practicing being human. You watch, worry growing. This isn't normal recovery. Normal recovery is gradual return to strength, to coordination, to normalcy. This is something else, something worse, something that makes your stomach clench with fear that tastes metallic. After breakfast, he goes back outside. You watch through window. He walks toward barn. His gait is off, unsteady, like walking on ship deck, like ground is moving beneath him. Then he falls, not dramatically, not suddenly, just falls. One step his legs work, next step they don't. He collapses, goes down hard, doesn't catch himself, hits ground and lies still. You run, drop dish towel, run through door, run across yard. Rose is crying behind you, but you can't stop, can't slow down. Can't do anything except reach your husband who's lying in dirt, not moving. He's conscious. That's first thing you check. His eyes are open, aware, confused, frightened. He tries to stand. Can't. His legs aren't responding, aren't obeying commands. Just lie there. Useless. You help him sit up. He's heavy. Dead weight. 200 pounds of man who can't support himself. You're 90 pounds. Weakened from illness. This should be impossible. But fear gives strength. Desperation gives strength. You get him upright. His voice is shaking. I can't feel my legs. The words are quiet, simple, devastating. You help him stand. He leans heavily on you, all his weight, testing whether legs will hold. They hold, barely, trembling, unreliable, but functioning enough to support weight if he's careful. You walk him back to house, slow progress. Each step is negotiation, each movement is uncertainty. Will legs work? Will they fail? There's no way to predict, no way to trust. He's prisoner in own body. Inside, you help him to bed. He lies down, stares at ceiling, doesn't speak. What is there to say? His body has betrayed him, failed him, left him dependent on wife who's barely recovered herself. You feel his legs. They're warm. Blood flow is normal, but when you press, he doesn't feel it. When you pinch, no response. The nerves aren't working, aren't transmitting sensation, aren't doing their job. This is the toxin. Still working, still destroying. Diphtheria toxin doesn't stop when fever breaks, doesn't stop when you survive acute phase. It continues, travels through bloodstream, finds nerves, damages them, destroys myelin sheaths, creates paralysis that develops days or weeks after initial infection. Doctor said to rest, said not to overexert. Almanzo didn't listen, couldn't listen, had to work, had to prove he was recovered, had to be man, be provider, be strong, and now he's paralyzed. You send word to town. Doctor comes that evening, examines Almanzo thoroughly, tests reflexes, tests sensation, tests strength. His face is professionally neutral, but his eyes are sad. The diagnosis: slight stroke of paralysis from overexertion too soon after diphtheria. Not stroke. That's wrong word. It's diphtheritic polyneuropathy, nerve damage from bacterial toxin. But stroke is word people understand. Stroke is diagnosis that makes sense to frontier farmers who don't know medical terminology. Doctor says it should improve, should resolve with rest, should be temporary. He's lying, or hopeful, or just doesn't know. Because diphtheritic polyneuropathy isn't always temporary, isn't always reversible. Sometimes nerves heal, sometimes they don't. Sometimes damage is permanent, and in Almanzo's case the damage will last 60 years. But lying in bed in March 1888, neither of you knows that yet. Don't know this is beginning, don't know the paralysis will fluctuate, improve some days, worsen others, never fully resolve, never fully heal. Don't know that Almanzo will need cane for rest of his life, will limp, will struggle with fine motor control, will be unable to do heavy farm work that defines his identity. Don't know that this moment, this fall, changes everything, changes your marriage, changes your future, changes who you are and what your life becomes. All you know is your husband can't walk, can't work, can't provide, and the farm work doesn't stop. Spring planting doesn't wait. Debts don't pause for paralysis. You're 21 years old. You've survived hailstorm, drought, diphtheria, and now you're about to become sole provider for family of 3 while nursing husband through paralysis no one can predict or cure. The question isn't whether you'll survive. You've proven you can survive anything. The question is what survival costs, what it takes, what it demands, what it destroys while saving you. You're standing in the barn at dawn, April 1888. Your hands are bleeding. Blisters have burst. Raw flesh exposed. The pitchfork handle is slippery with blood and you can't afford to care. The horses need feeding, the cow needs milking, the chickens need grain. Work doesn't stop because your husband is paralyzed. Your back screams. Muscles you didn't know you had are protesting. You've been doing this for 3 weeks. 3 weeks of man's work on woman's body. 3 weeks of lifting, hauling, carrying. 3 weeks of pretending you're strong enough when you're not. The cow kicks the bucket. Milk spills across dirty floor. Wasted. You want to cry, want to scream, want to collapse, and let someone else handle this impossible situation. But there is no one else, just you. 21 years old, 90 pounds, sole provider for family of 3. Rose is inside with Almanzo. He's watching her. That's what he can do now. Watch, sit, exist. He can't walk without crutches, can't stand without support, can't do any of the 100 physical tasks that farming requires. His identity as provider has been stripped away, replaced with humiliation of being cared for by wife who weighs less than half what he does. You finish milking, start mucking stalls. The shovel is heavy, the manure is heavier, your arms shake, your legs tremble, you're not eating enough, can't eat enough. There's not enough food, and what food exists goes to Almanzo first. He needs to recover, needs nutrition to heal nerves that may never heal. You're expendable. Wives are always expendable. The work takes 4 hours. Tasks that took Almanzo 90 minutes take you 4 hours. You're slower, weaker, less efficient. The math is brutal. 4 hours of barn work, 2 hours of housework, 3 hours of cooking and cleaning, 2 hours of laundry, 1 hour of childcare, 12 hours of labour every day, no breaks, no rest, no help. You walk back to house, your legs feel like lead. Your vision swims. When did you last eat? Yesterday morning? The day before? Time blurs when you're this tired. Hunger becomes background noise, just another discomfort to ignore. Inside, Almanzo is sitting in chair by window. Same chair, same position as yesterday, as the day before, as every day since paralysis struck. He's staring outside, watching land he can't work, watching life he can't live. His face is blank, carefully neutral. The expression of man trying not to feel what he's feeling. Rose runs to you, grabs your legs. She's hungry. You can tell by the way she whines, by the pitch of her voice. Toddlers don't hide hunger well, can't mask need, can't pretend everything is fine. You pick her up. She weighs almost nothing, or maybe you're just used to lifting things heavier than 18 pounds. Used to hauling 50-pound feed sacks, used to carrying 40-pound water buckets, used to physical labour that's destroying your body day by day. You make breakfast, oatmeal. Again, it's cheap, filling. Can be stretched when money is scarce. You add water to make it go further. The consistency is thin, more gruel than oatmeal. But it's food. That's all that matters. Almanzo eats silently. Doesn't look at you. Hasn't looked at you properly in weeks. Can't meet your eyes. The shame is eating him alive. Shame of dependence. Shame of weakness. Shame of wife doing his work while he sits useless. You want to comfort him. Want to say it's not his fault. Want to bridge the distance growing between you, but you're too tired, too hungry, too resentful of situation neither of you chose but both of you suffer. The silence stretches. Fills the room, heavy, oppressive, the kind of silence that grows in marriages under strain, the kind that calcifies into permanent distance if not addressed. But addressing requires energy you don't have, requires emotional capacity that's been depleted by sheer physical survival. After breakfast, you attempt the planting. Spring wheat needs to go in ground. Timing is critical. Plant too early, frost kills it. Plant too late, growing season is too short. You have maybe 1 week of optimal planting window, 1 week to prepare field and plant seeds, and pray for crop that might save you from financial ruin. You harness the horses, they resist. They know you're not Almanzo. Know you don't have his strength, his authority, his experience. Animals sense fear, sense uncertainty, and you reek of both. It takes 40 minutes to get harness on. Tasks that should take 5 minutes, but horses keep shifting, keep moving away, keep testing whether you'll assert dominance, whether you can force compliance, whether you're capable of controlling 1,200 pounds of muscle and stubbornness. You finally get them hitched to plough, mount the equipment, snap the reins. The horses move, slow, reluctant, testing. You snap again, harder. They increase pace. Not much, just enough to indicate grudging cooperation. The plough cuts into soil. You can feel resistance through handles, feel earth resisting, fighting, making you earn every furrow. Your hands cramp around handles. Blisters reform on top of healing wounds. Pain shoots up your arms, shoulders, neck, back. Your entire body is screaming protest, but you don't stop, can't stop. This field is your survival. These seeds are your future. This crop is the difference between eating and starving, between keeping land and losing everything. There's no option to quit. No allowance for pain or weakness or female body trying to do male labour. 2 hours in, your vision goes dark, not blind, just dimmed. Like someone turned down lamp. You blink, shake your head. The darkness recedes slightly. Your body is shutting down non-essential functions to conserve energy. Vision qualifies as non-essential when you're this depleted. You keep ploughing, one furrow then another. Slow progress, inadequate progress. At this rate, planting will take 2 weeks. You don't have 2 weeks. Have maybe 4 days before window closes, before soil temperature drops or rain comes or some new disaster strikes. The horses stop. You snap reins. They don't move. You snap harder. Still nothing. They've decided break time. Decided you don't have authority to push them further. Decided mutiny is option. You climb down. Your legs buckle. You catch yourself on plough handle. Stand there breathing hard, trying to remember why you're doing this, trying to find reason to continue, trying to locate the strength that's supposed to exist somewhere inside you. It's not there. You've already used it, burned through it, depleted every reserve and then borrowed against reserves that don't exist. You're running on fumes, on desperation, on the thin edge of collapse. But you can't collapse, can't afford to. There's no one to catch you, no one to take over, no safety net. Just you, an impossible task and land that doesn't care whether you succeed or fail. You get the horses moving again, plough 3 more furrows. Your hands are bleeding freely now, blood mixing with dirt, creating mud that makes handles slippery, makes control harder, makes everything more difficult than it already is. The sun is high when you finally stop, not because you're done, because your body won't cooperate anymore, won't obey commands, won't function beyond minimum required to walk back to house and not die on the way. You unhitch horses, lead them to barn, give them feed they've earned. They eat calmly, unbothered by the day, unbothered by your suffering. Animals don't empathize, don't care, just eat and exist and wait for next command. You stumble back to house. Inside, Almanzo is still in chair, still staring out window. Rose is napping. The house is quiet, peaceful, like nothing is wrong, like life is normal. Like you didn't just spend 6 hours attempting work you're physically incapable of sustaining. You collapse onto bed. Don't bother removing boots. Don't bother changing clothes. Just lie there, staring at ceiling, wondering how long you can maintain this pace, wondering what happens when you break. Because you're going to break. It's not a question of if, only when. Almanzo speaks. First words all day. How much did you get done? His voice is quiet, careful. The tone of man who knows answer will hurt but needs to know anyway. You tell him, 3 acres, maybe 4, should be 20. At this rate, half the field won't get planted, half the potential crop will never exist, half your survival margin disappears before you even begin. Silence falls again, heavier than before, because now you both know, no, this isn't sustainable. No, you can't do this alone. Know that farming with paralyzed husband and exhausted wife and toddler is recipe for failure so obvious even optimism can't deny it. But what's the alternative? Give up, abandon the claim, walk away from 3 years of investment and work and suffering, move back to town. Do what exactly? You have no money, no options, no backup plan. This farm is all you have, and if you can't make it work, you have nothing. So you'll keep trying, keep ploughing, keep planting, keep pretending you're capable when you're not, keep lying to yourself and each other, and God about whether this situation is survivable, because the only thing worse than continuing is stopping, and stopping means admitting defeat, means losing, means 3 years of hell were for nothing, and you can't accept that, won't accept that. Well, work yourself to death before accepting that, even though working yourself to death might be exactly what you're doing. You're lying awake at midnight, can't sleep, your body hurts too much, every muscle is cramping, spasming, protesting the abuse you've inflicted. Your hands throb, your back feels like someone hit it with hammer, your legs twitch involuntarily. Exhaustion so complete it circles back to wakefulness. Beside you, Almanzo sleeps, or pretends to sleep. Hard to tell. He's been distant, withdrawn, living inside his own head where you can't reach him, where no one can reach him. Depression is setting in, the kind that develops when man's purpose is stripped away, when identity crumbles, when future looks like nothing but limitations and dependency and shame. You understand, intellectually, emotionally. You grasp what he's experiencing, but understanding doesn't create sympathy when you're destroying yourself, trying to compensate for his incapacity. Understanding doesn't breed compassion when you're starving so he can eat. Resentment grows even when you know it's unfair, even when you know he didn't choose this, even when you know blaming him is wrong. But wrong doesn't stop feelings, doesn't prevent the slow poison of bitterness from seeping into marriage already strained by 3 years of disaster. Morning comes too soon. Your eyes are burning. gritty. You slept maybe 2 hours. Not enough. Never enough. Sleep is luxury you can't afford. Work starts at dawn regardless of exhaustion, regardless of pain, regardless of whether your body is capable. You drag yourself upright. Your vision swims. Black spots dance. You grip the bed frame, waiting for equilibrium to return, waiting for body to remember how to function vertically. It takes longer each morning, takes more effort, more will, more desperation. Breakfast is yesterday's oatmeal. Cold, congealed. You don't bother heating it. Don't have energy to build fire. Don't have capacity to care about temperature or taste or any comfort beyond minimum calories to keep moving. Almanzo tries to stand, gets crutches positioned, hoists himself up, takes 3 steps. His right leg gives out. He falls. Hard. The crash echoes. Rose starts crying. You don't move to help him. Can't. If you start helping him stand every time he falls, you'll never finish your own work. He has to learn, has to adapt, has to figure out how to function within new limitations. He gets himself up. Slowly. Painfully. The effort leaves him shaking, sweating. He makes it to chair, collapses, sits there breathing like he ran mile. The simple act of standing and walking 10 feet has exhausted him completely. You take Rose outside, away from tension, away from failure hanging in air like smoke. She needs fresh air, needs space to play, needs childhood despite everything falling apart around her. The field waits, half ploughed, seeds waiting in barn, time running out. You harness horses again. Same battle, same resistance, same 40-minute struggle that should take 5. Your hands are infected now. You can see red streaks, feel heat radiating from wounds. Infection is setting in. If it gets bad enough, you could lose fingers, lose hand, lose life to blood poisoning that starts with blisters and ends with sepsis, but there's no time for treatment. No money for doctor, no option except wrapping hands in rags and continuing, hoping immune system handles infection, hoping body can fight one more battle while fighting dozen others simultaneously. You plough, same torture as yesterday, same impossible labour, same slow progress that's never fast enough. 4 more acres done by sunset, 8 acres total, 32 to go. The math is crushing. At this rate, planting takes 10 more days. You don't have 10 days, have maybe 3 before soil conditions change, before weather shifts, before opportunity closes. That night, Royal visits. He takes one look at you and his face goes pale. You can imagine what he sees. Woman who's lost 20 pounds she didn't have to lose. Hands wrapped in bloody rags, face hollow, eyes dead. The look of someone dying slowly from overwork and starvation and stress that's literally killing her. He argues with Almanzo. You hear them from kitchen. Royal's voice is angry, frustrated, saying Almanzo needs to give up the farm, needs to move to town, needs to accept that farming is impossible for paralysed man and wife who weighs 90 pounds. Almanzo's voice is defensive, stubborn, saying he'll recover, saying the paralysis is temporary, saying next year will be better, saying all the lies men tell themselves when they can't accept reality. Royal offers money, offers to hire help, offers to send one of his farmhands for a week to finish planting. Almanzo refuses. Pride won't allow accepting help, won't allow admitting he can't provide, won't allow acknowledging failure even when failure is obvious to everyone, including him. Royal leaves angry, frustrated, helpless. He can't force help on brother who won't accept it, can't save people determined to destroy themselves through stubborn refusal to admit defeat. You continue ploughing, day after day, sunrise to sunset. Your body stops registering pain, stops sending signals, just operates in numb autopilot mode, mechanical, robotic, human machine pushed past reasonable limits into territory where permanent damage occurs. 10 days in, you finish. All 40 acres ploughed, seeds planted, work complete, you've done it. Accomplished impossible task. Proved you can function as farmer despite being female, despite being 90 pounds, Despite being physically inadequate for labour you've completed, the victory feels hollow, empty, because you've destroyed yourself achieving it. Your hands are permanently damaged. Fingers won't straighten fully. Scar tissue has formed. The infection eventually cleared, but healing left deformity, left permanent reminder of price paid for spring planting, 1888. Your back is injured. Something slipped. Disc. Vertebra. Something structural that causes constant pain now. Pain that radiates down legs. Pain that makes standing difficult. Pain that will persist for years. Maybe forever. Maybe permanent damage from temporary crisis. But crop is planted. That's what matters. Seeds are in ground, rain will come, sun will shine, wheat will grow, and maybe this crop will save you. Will provide enough income to survive another year. Will justify the cost in blood and pain and permanent injury. Or maybe hail will destroy it, or drought, or locusts, or fire, or any of 100 disasters that plague frontier farmers. Maybe all this suffering will be for nothing. Maybe you've destroyed yourself for crop that will never reach harvest. You don't know yet. Won't know for months. Can only wait. Only hope. Only pray that sacrifice wasn't wasted. That suffering had purpose. That permanent damage bought something worth the price. But lying in bed that night, hands throbbing, back screaming, body broken, you wonder if anything is worth this. Wonder if survival is supposed to cost everything. Wonder if there's difference between surviving and dying slowly. Between living and existing in constant pain while pretending it's acceptable. Between marriage and prison where both people are trapped by circumstances neither chose. Almanzo reaches for your hand in darkness. You let him take it. His grip is weak, uncertain. The touch of man who's lost confidence in everything, including whether his wife still loves him, whether she resents him, whether she blames him for paralysis that's destroyed everything. You don't know how you feel. Can't access emotions anymore. They're buried under exhaustion, under resentment, under grief for future that died when diphtheria struck, under anger at God or fate or bacteria that took healthy husband and left broken man who can't even stand without falling. But you hold his hand. Because that's what wives do, what frontier women do, what you do when there's nothing left except holding on and hoping tomorrow is somehow less awful than today. Even though tomorrow will bring new challenges, new disasters, new reasons to regret every choice that led to this moment, but you'll face them, because quitting isn't option. Because giving up means losing everything, because somewhere deep inside, beneath exhaustion and resentment and pain, you still believe this marriage is worth saving, this farm is worth keeping, this life is worth living, even when evidence suggests otherwise, even when every rational thought says abandon this disaster and start over somewhere else, even when your body is literally breaking from strain of trying to make impossible situation work. You'll keep trying, keep fighting, keep pretending you're strong enough when you're not, keep lying to yourself about sustainability. Keep hoping that somehow, impossibly, things will improve, because hope is all you have left, and hope costs nothing except the soul you're slowly trading for survival that feels more like slow death every single day. You're sitting on the porch, watching rain. 1888. The wheat is sprouting, tiny green shoots breaking through soil, life emerging from labour and blood and suffering you poured into ground 6 weeks ago. The rain is gentle, soaking, perfect for young plants. Maybe this year will be different. Maybe this crop will survive. Maybe luck will finally turn. Or maybe you're delusional. Maybe optimism is just another word for refusing to accept pattern. 3 years, 3 disasters. Why would year 4 be different? Almanzo is inside with Rose. He can walk now, sort of. With cane, slow, limping. Balance is unreliable. Falls still happen. But he's mobile, capable of basic tasks, can dress himself, feed himself, watch daughter without constant supervision, progress from 2 months ago when he couldn't stand without support, but he can't farm, can't do heavy labour, can't lift, can't carry, can't manage physical demands of working land. The paralysis has improved but hasn't resolved. Likely never will. Doctor said nerve damage is often permanent. Said improvement happens in first 6 months, then plateaus. Said Almanzo should adjust expectations. Should accept new normal. Should grieve the future he imagined and accept the one he has. Almanzo hasn't accepted anything. Still talks about next year like next year will be different. Like paralysis will magically disappear. Like body will heal, beyond what medical science says is possible. Denial is powerful drug, especially for men whose identity requires strength, requires capability, requires being provider in a world that punishes weakness, you understand. But understanding and sympathy are different things. And sympathy is hard to maintain when you're still doing all the work, still managing farm, still providing, still operating as man and wife and mother and farmhand and cook and everything else that survival requires. The resentment has calcified, hardened into something permanent. You love Almanzo, still. Probably always will. But love and like are different. And lately you don't like him much. Don't like his refusal to accept reality. Don't like his stubborn optimism that feels like willful blindness. Don't like being sole adult in marriage that's supposed to be partnership. But you don't say these things. Can't. Frontier wives don't complain. Don't voice dissatisfaction. Don't demand better when better isn't possible. They endure, suffer silently. Pretend everything is fine while dying inside from isolation and exhaustion and resentment that has nowhere to go except deeper into their own hearts, where it poisons everything. The wheat grows, inch by inch, week by week. Green field spreading across 40 acres. Beautiful, hopeful. Proof that effort yields results, that labour produces something tangible, that maybe, this year will be the one that saves you. June brings heat, oppressive, relentless, the kind that makes breathing feel like work. The wheat grows taller, stronger, reaching toward harvest, toward the moment when you'll know whether suffering was worth it, whether sacrifice brought survival or just delayed inevitable failure. Almanzo improves slowly, can walk without cane some days, can help with light chores, can carry water buckets, can feed chickens, can contribute in small ways that are enormous for man who spent weeks unable to stand. Progress is happening, just not fast enough, never fast enough. July brings grasshoppers, not locusts, not biblical plague, just normal grasshopper population that eats normal amount of crops. You can handle normal. Normal is manageable. Normal is acceptable loss. You've budgeted for normal. But normal after 3 years of disaster feels like miracle. Feels like God finally looked away from someone else's tragedy long enough to let you survive. Feels like luck is turning. Like suffering has been sufficient. Like you've paid enough in pain and blood and tears to earn harvest. The wheat ripens, gold spreading across field, heavy heads bending stalks, promising yield, promising income. Promising the survival you fought for through diphtheria and paralysis and labour that nearly killed you. Harvest comes, you hire help. 3 men, cost is high but necessary. You can't harvest 40 acres alone. Can't cut and bundle and thresh without assistance. Almanzo can't help, can barely walk field without exhausting himself, without needing to rest, without demonstrating how completely paralysis has stolen his capability. The men work fast, efficient, professional. They cut and bundle in days what would take you weeks. They don't judge, don't comment on paralyzed husband or wife with scarred hands. Just work, take payment, leave, transaction complete. Threshing is next. More hired help, more expense, more money flowing out while you wait for money to flow in. The fear is constant. What if harvest doesn't cover costs? What if you've spent more growing crop than crop is worth? What if you've survived everything only to fail at simple economics? The final yield comes in. Numbers calculated, profit determined. You've made money, not much, barely enough to cover debts and buy winter supplies, but profit. Actual positive number. For first time in 3 years, you've farmed without financial loss. The relief is overwhelming, profound. You've done it. Survived impossible year. Defeated diphtheria. completed planting, raised crop, made money, proved you can survive anything, proved marriage can endure anything, proved that suffering isn't permanent, that situations improve, that hope isn't always delusion. You want to celebrate, want to feel joy, want to savor victory after 3 years of defeat, but you're too tired, too damaged, too scarred by experience to trust good fortune. Because frontier living teaches harsh lesson. Relief is temporary. Disaster is always waiting. Nothing good lasts. And you're right, because August will bring fire. Fire that destroys house. Fire that burns everything you've built. Fire that proves your instinct correct. That proves suffering isn't over. That proves this year isn't different at all. But standing in July 1888, watching wheat sell at market, you don't know that yet. Don't know the next disaster is already building, already preparing, already waiting to prove that hope is cruelest joke of all. For now, you have money, have harvest, have proof that impossible is achievable, that survival is possible even when everything suggests otherwise. You hold Almanzo's hand, look at Rose playing, feel moment of peace, of satisfaction, of accomplishment earned through suffering you'll carry in your body for the rest of your life. This is victory. This is success. This is what winning looks like when you're frontier farmer fighting impossible odds with broken body and paralyzed husband and determination that refuses to accept defeat. It's not glorious, not dramatic, not the triumph stories promise. Just quiet knowledge that you didn't die, didn't give up, didn't fail, you survived. And survival is enough, has to be enough, because it's all you have, all you'll ever have, all that frontier promises anyone willing to suffer for it, and you've suffered plenty, more than anyone should have to endure. But you're still here, still standing, still fighting, still surviving. You're standing at the stove making supper. August 15th, 1888. The heat is suffocating. 95 degrees inside the house. Hotter outside. The kind of heat that makes breathing feel like swallowing fire, makes moving feel like wading through syrup, makes existing feel like punishment. The stove makes it worse, has to stay lit for cooking, for heating water, for every domestic task that keeps family fed and clean. Summer cooking is torture, standing over flame in heat that's already unbearable, adding more heat to air that can't absorb it, sweating until your dress is soaked, until salt stings your eyes, until you wonder if spontaneous combustion is actually possible. Rose is outside with Almanzo. He's watching her play. He can manage that now, can sit in shade and supervise toddler, can't chase her if she runs, can't catch her if she falls, but he can watch, can yell warnings, can provide minimal supervision that's better than nothing. The prairie is tinder dry, hasn't rained in 3 weeks. The wheat harvest is complete. Stubble remains in field, dead stalks, dried vegetation. Perfect fuel for fire if spark ever finds it. But you're careful. Everyone is careful. Fire is terror that haunts every frontier farmer. Fire that can destroy years of work in hours, that can kill family, that can erase existence like it never happened. You're stirring beans when you smell it. Smoke, not wood smoke from your stove, different smell. Grass smoke, vegetation burning, the smell that means prairie fire, the smell that means run or die. You drop the spoon, run to door, look out. South horizon is dark, not clouds, smoke, thick, black, rising in column that reaches sky, and below it, orange glow, fireline, wide, spreading. Moving north, moving toward you, your heart stops, then races. Pure panic floods your system. Prairie fire is nightmare. Is death sentence if you can't outrun it. Is end of everything if it reaches your house, your barn, your crops, your life. You scream for Almanzo. He looks up, sees your face, sees terror. He struggles to stand, grabs cane, limps toward house as fast as damaged body allows. Rose is crying, confused, sensing panic without understanding cause. The smoke is closer, you can see it now. Billowing, rolling, eating distance between fire and your claim. Minutes, you have minutes to decide. Stay and fight, run and survive. Choose between possessions and life. Choose between everything you've built and continued existence. Almanzo reaches you. His face is pale. He sees the fire, sees the speed, sees the impossibility of fighting it. Prairie Fire moves fast, faster than horses, faster than thought, faster than any defense you could mount. He makes decision. Take Rose, go to town, now. You hesitate. Leave him. Leave house. Leave everything. Just run. Just abandon 3 years of suffering and investment and work. Just let it burn. Now. His voice is sharp, commanding, the voice of man who's useless in crisis, making one useful decision, saving his family even if he can't save anything else. You grab Rose, no time for wagon, no time to harness horses, just run. Carry 20-pound toddler and run toward town 2 miles away. Run like your life depends on it. Because it does. The smoke is thicker, closer. You can feel heat now, can see flames, 30 feet high, consuming everything. Eating grass and stubble and air itself. Moving like living thing, like predator hunting prey, like death taking physical form. You run. Rose is screaming, struggling. She doesn't understand, doesn't grasp why Mama is running, why Papa isn't coming, why everything is terror and smoke and heat that makes breathing hurt. Behind you, Almanzo is doing what he can, wetting down house with well water, soaking roof, soaking walls, trying to create barrier between wood and flame, trying to save house he can barely walk through, trying to prove he's still useful, still capable, still man despite paralysis that's stolen everything else. But water against Prairie Fire is joke, is delusion, is desperate attempt to control uncontrollable. The fire doesn't care about water, doesn't care about effort. Doesn't care about anything except consuming fuel until fuel runs out or wind changes or rain falls. You're halfway to town when you look back. The fire has reached your property, has reached the wheat stubble, has found 40 acres of perfect fuel. The flames explode, jump, spread. The field becomes inferno in seconds, in heartbeats, in time too short to measure. The house is surrounded, smoke obscures it. You can't see Almanzo, can't see if he's still fighting, still alive, can't see anything except fire and smoke and destruction of everything you've worked for. You keep running, have to, can't help him, can't fight fire, can only save Rose, only protect daughter while hoping husband survives, while praying paralyzed man can move fast enough to escape flames. While begging God for mercy you're not sure you deserve after 3 years of disaster that feels like punishment. Town appears, buildings, people, safety. You collapse in a street. Rose is still screaming. Your lungs are burning. Smoke inhalation, heat damage. The cost of running 2 miles while carrying toddler while breathing air mixed with ash and poison. People gather, ask questions, offer water, offer help, offer sympathy that means nothing when everything you own is burning, when your husband might be dead, when your life is ending for 4th time in 3 years. Someone brings wagon. Men volunteer to check your claim, to see if Almanzo survived, if house survived, if anything remains. You can't go, can't bring Rose near fire, can only wait, only exist in terrible limbo of not knowing whether you're wife or widow. Whether you have home or just empty land, whether survival is still possible or if this is finally the disaster that breaks you completely. The waiting is torture. Minutes feel like hours, hours feel like years. Rose eventually calms. Exhaustion wins over fear. She falls asleep in your arms, innocent, unaware that her world might have just ended, that her father might be dead, that her mother is breaking apart inside while pretending to be calm. Sunset comes, the men return. Their faces are grim, covered in soot, exhausted. They found Almanzo. He's alive, burned, injured, but alive. He tried to save the house, stayed too long, nearly died doing it. But the house is gone, barn is gone, wheat stubble is gone, everything is gone. 3 years of building reduced to ash and memory in 3 hours. 3 hours of fire racing 3 years of labour. 3 hours proving that all your suffering was meaningless, that all your work was wasted, that all your hope was delusion. You feel nothing. The news should devastate, should break you, should trigger tears or screams or collapse. But you feel nothing. Numbness, shock, emotional shutdown from trauma overload. Your system can't process more disaster, can't absorb more loss, can only exist in blank space where feelings should be. They bring Almanzo to town. He's wrapped in blankets, shaking, burns on his hands and arms. Minor, superficial, nothing permanent, but the shock is deep. The defeat is complete. He saved nothing, lost everything, failed as provider, failed as protector, failed as man in every way frontier culture defines manhood. You sit beside him. Don't speak. Don't touch. Don't comfort. Can't. Have nothing left to give. No reserves. No capacity. No ability to be wife when you can barely be person. When survival is consuming everything you are and leaving nothing for relationships, for love, for connection that requires energy you no longer possess. That night you stay with neighbours. They offer home, offer food, offer charity that tastes like humiliation, like failure, like proof that you can't make it alone, that you need help, that you're weak, dependent, unable to survive without community support. You lie awake, staring at ceiling, processing nothing because processing would require acknowledging reality, acknowledging that you've lost, that 3 years accomplished nothing. That diphtheria and paralysis and labour that destroyed your body bought you exactly nothing except pile of ash where house used to be. Almanzo is beside you, not speaking, not moving, just existing in same numb space. Same emotional void, same blank horror of watching everything burn while being helpless to stop it. Rose sleeps between you, innocent, protected, unaware that her parents are broken, that their marriage is fracturing, that the pressure is finally too much, that love isn't always enough, that sometimes disaster wins, that sometimes you can't survive, can't overcome, can't continue pretending everything will be fine when everything is very clearly not fine. Tomorrow you'll assess damage, we'll see ash pile where home was, we'll calculate loss, we'll determine whether rebuilding is possible or whether this is finally end. Whether you admit defeat, whether you give up claim, whether you walk away from Dakota Territory and never return. But tonight you just lie in borrowed bed in borrowed house, wearing borrowed night clothes while trying to figure out who you are when everything that defined you is gone, when the home you built is ash, when the marriage you fought for is dying, when the hope you clung to is revealed as delusion. Tonight you're nobody. Nothing. Just woman lying in darkness wondering if she has strength to survive one more day. One more disaster, one more reason to quit. And honestly, you're not sure. Not anymore. You've survived everything. But survival has cost everything. And you're starting to wonder if cost is too high. If existing in constant disaster is really living. If marriage that brings nothing but suffering is worth maintaining. If hope that's constantly disappointed is anything except self-torture. You don't have answers, can't find them in the darkness, can only exist, only breathe, only wait for morning to reveal whether anything remains worth fighting for, whether anything remains at all. You're standing in ash. Morning after, August 16th, 1888, the ruins are smoking, still hot, still releasing heat absorbed during yesterday's inferno. The smell is acrid, bitter. The smell of burned wood and burned dreams and burned future. The house's foundation and chimney, that's all. Stone remains. Everything else is ash. The walls are gone. The roof is gone. The furniture you built and paid for and carried across prairie is gone. The dishes, the clothes, the quilts your mother made, the photograph of your family. Everything. Gone. Reduced to grey powder that blows away in morning breeze. The barn is similar. Frame collapsed, walls burned. The horses survived. You turned them loose before running. They ran, found safety, returned this morning, Standing at property edge looking confused, animals don't understand destruction, don't comprehend that home is gone, just know something is wrong, something has changed, something feels dangerous. Almanzo is silent, standing beside you leaning on cane. His burns are bandaged, hands wrapped, arms covered. The injuries aren't severe, but they're painful. Every movement pulls burned skin. Every breath reminds him of failure, of staying too long, of trying to save what couldn't be saved, of nearly dying for house that burned anyway. Royal arrives at midday. He rode from his claim, came to assess damage, to offer help. To do whatever brothers do when tragedy strikes. His face is shocked. He's seen Prairie Fire damage before, has lost neighbours, has attended funerals for families who didn't escape. But seeing brother's house reduced to ash makes it personal, makes it real in a way general knowledge never does. He offers his home, offers money, offers to rebuild, offers everything except the one thing Almanzo needs: dignity, pride, the ability to say no, the ability to refuse help, the ability to be man who provides instead of man who receives. Almanzo refuses, again, still, always refusing, still clinging to independence that doesn't exist, to pride that's already shattered, to image of self that died with diphtheria, with paralysis, with fire that proved he can't protect his own family. Royal argues, you listen silently, don't participate. Don't have energy for male pride, for stubborn refusal to accept help, for games men play pretending they're self-sufficient when they're clearly not. You're too tired, too defeated, too done with everything. The argument ends nowhere. Royal leaves frustrated. Almanzo stands in ash looking lost. You hold Rose and wonder what happens next, where you live, how you survive, what options exist for family with no house and no money and no prospects. The neighbours offer temporary shelter. You can stay with them while you figure out permanent solution, while you decide whether rebuilding is possible, whether staying in Dakota Territory makes sense, whether continuing this nightmare is rational or just stubborn refusal to admit failure. That night Almanzo proposes plan. Winter in town, rent room, he'll do carpentry. Light work his damaged body can manage. You'll take in sewing. Between two incomes, maybe you can save enough to rebuild next spring. Maybe you can survive winter and try again. Maybe disaster isn't permanent end, just temporary setback. You don't argue, don't agree, don't have opinions anymore. Opinions require caring. Caring requires energy. Energy is commodity you lack. So you nod. Accept plan. Move forward, because moving forward is what you do, what frontier women do, what wives do when husbands make decisions that may or may not be rational. The move to town happens quickly. You rent room above shop. One room, small, 12 by 14 feet, space for bed and stove and little else. Rose sleeps between you. No crib, no separate space. Just family of three packed into room barely large enough for one. The room is stifling. August heat trapped under roof, no ventilation, no air circulation, no relief from temperature that makes sleeping impossible, makes breathing difficult, makes existing feel like punishment you've done nothing to deserve. But it's shelter, has roof, has walls, has lock on door that makes you safer than staying on claim in tent or dugout while rebuilding. Safety matters when you have daughter, when dangers multiply, when you're already defeated and can't handle more trauma. Almanzo finds carpentry work, small jobs, repairs, building shelves, making furniture, work that pays little but pays something, work his damaged body can manage without falling, without embarrassing himself, without demonstrating how completely paralysis has limited his capability. You take in sewing, mending, alterations, making dresses. Work that pays even less but requires no physical strength, just skill, patience, hours of sitting in hot rooms stabbing needle through fabric while trying not to think about how far you've fallen, how completely your dreams have died, how thoroughly life has crushed you. The money comes in slowly, pennies, nickels, dimes. You save everything, every coin, every cent, calculating how long before you have enough to buy lumber, to buy nails, to buy materials for rebuilding house on claim you're not sure you want anymore. September brings cooler temperatures, relief from heat that's been torturing you. But cooler weather brings different problems. The room is poorly insulated, wind cuts through cracks, cold seeps through walls, the small stove barely heats space, burns through fuel too fast, costs money you can't afford to spend. Rose gets sick, cold first, then develops into croup. The barking cough that means airway is swelling. That means breathing is difficult. That means baby might suffocate if condition worsens. Doctor visit costs $1. $1 is entire day's earnings. But you pay, have to, can't risk Rose, can't lose daughter after losing everything else. Doctor says she'll recover, says keep her warm, keep her humid, keep her comfortable, says things that are easy for man with house and money and resources, says things that are nearly impossible for family living in single room with minimal funds and no capacity to provide comfort beyond bare minimum. Rose does recover, slowly, over weeks, but the illness depletes your savings, the $1 for doctor, the extra fuel for keeping room warm, the lost work time from nursing sick child. The total cost is weeks' earnings, weeks' progress toward rebuilding, weeks' hope erased by routine childhood illness. The frustration builds. Every step forward is followed by step backward. Every gain is erased by new expense. Every hopeful moment is crushed by practical reality. You're not making progress, not building toward future, just existing, just surviving day to day, just treading water while trying not to drown. Almanzo works longer hours, pushes damaged body harder, comes home exhausted, falls into bed without eating, without speaking, without anything except collapse. The strain is breaking him, physically, emotionally, spiritually. He's trying so hard, trying to be provider, trying to rebuild what fire destroyed, trying to prove he's still man despite everything suggesting otherwise, but trying isn't enough. Effort isn't enough. Good intentions don't pay rent, don't buy lumber, don't rebuild house, don't create future from ashes of past. October brings first snow, early, unexpected, the kind of weather event that signals hard winter coming, that suggests suffering ahead, that promises more hardship for family already at breaking point. The room is freezing, stove can't keep up, you burn through fuel faster than budget allows, start rationing, letting fire die at night, sleeping in all your clothes, piling every blanket on bed, huddling together for warmth, existing in cold that makes your bones ache, that makes breathing hurt, that makes you wonder if freezing to death is really so terrible, if maybe it's easier than continuing, than fighting, than suffering year after year with no end in sight. But you don't freeze, don't die, don't get easy exit. Just suffer through cold nights and wake to frozen mornings and continue existing in hell that looks like normal life, that passes for survival, that counts as success for people whose expectations have dropped so low that not dying qualifies as victory. The savings grow, slowly, inadequately. By November you have $18. Sounds like money. Isn't. Lumber for house costs $200. You're not even 10% toward goal. At current rate, rebuilding will take 3 years. 3 years of living in single room, 3 years of poverty and cold and struggle, 3 years of delayed life, delayed future, delayed everything. The question becomes impossible to ignore. Is rebuilding worth it? Is returning to claim rational? Is farming sustainable for paralyzed man, an exhausted wife and growing daughter who need stability? Is hope based on reality, or just stubborn refusal to admit defeat? You don't discuss these questions. Don't voice doubts. Don't admit that maybe you should give up, should move somewhere else, should start over in place without 3 years of trauma attached, without memories of diphtheria and paralysis and fire, without constant reminders of failure. But the questions exist, unspoken, growing, poisoning the silence between you, creating distance, creating resentment, creating cracks in marriage foundation that's already fractured from strain of surviving impossible circumstances. And winter hasn't even truly started yet. The worst cold is still coming. The hardest months are ahead. The longest stretch of suffering is approaching. You're not sure you can survive it, not sure you want to, not sure the difference matters anymore when survival looks like this, feels like this, costs this much, but you'll try, because trying is what you do, what frontier women do, what wives do even when trying feels pointless, even when hope is gone, even when future looks like nothing but more suffering with no reward except continued existence in circumstances that barely qualify as living. You'll try, and you'll probably survive, because somehow you always do. Even when survival is the cruelest outcome of all, you're sitting by the window doing mending. December 1888. Your fingers are numb. Cold makes fine motor control difficult, makes threading needle nearly impossible, makes each stitch take twice as long, but you keep working, have to. This mending is $2. $2 is week's rent. $2 is survival. Rose is playing with wooden spools. Only toy she has. Everything else burned. Everything else was lost. She's 19 months old now. Walking, talking, growing despite everything. Despite poverty. Despite cold. Despite living in single room with parents who barely speak. The silence between you and Almanzo has become permanent. Not hostile, just empty. You have nothing left to say. Nothing to discuss except money you don't have and future that doesn't exist and decisions neither of you can make. So you don't speak. Just coexist. Just share space without sharing anything else. Almanzo comes home with news. He's found a land, different claim. 100 miles east, near Spring Valley, Minnesota. Friend of his father offered partnership. Share in established farm. House to live in. Income potential. Opportunity to start over without rebuilding from ash. He wants to take it, wants to leave Dakota Territory, wants to admit that 4 years of suffering accomplished nothing. That farming here is impossible. That paralyzed man and exhausted wife can't make it work alone on isolated claim. You should feel relief, should be happy to leave, should embrace opportunity to escape place that's brought nothing but disaster. But you feel cheated, betrayed. Like 4 years of suffering meant nothing. Like diphtheria and paralysis and labour that destroyed your body were for nothing. Like fire wasn't ending. Just final insult added to years of injury. But you agree. What choice do you have? Can't rebuild with $18. Can't survive another year in single room. Can't continue existing in limbo pretending temporary situation is sustainable. Minnesota offers house, offers income, offers possibility of life beyond mere survival. The move happens in January, worst possible time, coldest month, hardest travelling conditions. But you can't afford to wait, can't pay more months of rent, can't delay longer, have to move now or lose opportunity. The journey is nightmare. 100 miles in winter, wagon packed with everything you own, which isn't much. Clothes, blankets, cooking pot, the sum total of possessions for family of 3. Everything else is gone, burned, sold, lost to sequence of disasters that defined your Dakota years. Rose cries, cold hurts her, wind cuts through blankets, through layers, through everything. She's too young to understand why they're leaving. Why they're travelling through cold, why everything is suffering. She just knows she's miserable, wants it to stop, wants comfort that doesn't exist. Almanzo drives, silent, focused, using every bit of remaining strength to manage horses, to navigate frozen roads, to get family to destination despite damaged body that makes everything harder. That makes simple task of driving wagon into challenge that exhausts him. You sit beside him holding Rose, trying to keep daughter warm, trying to block wind, trying to provide comfort you don't have, protection that's inadequate, safety that's more hope than reality. The journey takes 4 days. 4 days of cold and pain and slow progress. 4 days of sleeping in wagon, of eating cold food, of existing in conditions that make single room in Smet look luxurious. 4 days proving that suffering is universal, that leaving place doesn't end hardship, just changes location. Spring Valley appears, small town, similar to De Smet, similar to every frontier town. Same board buildings, same dirt streets, same frontier desperation disguised as opportunity. The farm is mile outside town. Partner's name is Peter. He's older, established, owns land and house and livestock, needs help managing it. Offers Almanzo partnership in exchange for labour, offers family housing in exchange for work. The house is real, actual house. Multiple rooms, real walls, real roof. Luxury compared to single room you've been surviving in. Rose runs through rooms delighted. Space to play, space to exist beyond 4 steps in any direction. Space that feels like wealth after months of confinement. But the arrangement is clear. You're not owners, not independent, not making it on your own. You're labourers, dependent on Peter's generosity, on his willingness to maintain partnership, on his continued good health and goodwill. One disagreement, one personality conflict, one change of mind and you're homeless again, dependent again, failing again. The work begins immediately. Almanzo does what he can, like chores, feeding animals, maintenance, things that don't require strength he doesn't have, capability that paralysis stole. He works hard, tries hard, but inadequacy is obvious, to him, to Peter, to you. He's broken, permanently, and no amount of effort changes that. You take over housework, cooking, cleaning, laundry, 2 families' worth, yours and Peter's, unpaid labour in exchange for housing, in exchange for survival. In exchange for not being homeless family living in wagon. The work is endless, familiar, same labour you've always done plus more, plus someone else's family, plus someone else's standards, plus obligation to please, to satisfy, to prove you're worth keeping, that maintaining partnership makes sense, that you're contributing enough to justify housing and food and continued existence. Spring comes, hope should return with it, should feel like new beginning, should represent fresh start in new place with new opportunities. But hope is dead, killed by 4 years of disaster. By 4 years of suffering, that taught clear lesson. Hope is liability. Optimism is weakness. Expecting good outcomes is delusion. So you don't hope, don't dream, don't imagine better future. Just exist, just work. Just survive day to day without thinking about tomorrow, without planning beyond immediate needs, without believing that life can be anything except endless labour interrupted occasionally by disaster. Almanzo's paralysis is permanent now, clear, obvious, undeniable. He'll always limp, always need cane, always be limited in ways that prevent normal farming, normal providing, normal manhood as frontier culture defines it. He's broken, permanently, and so is your marriage, fractured by strain, by resentment, by dreams dying, by future collapsing, by love proving insufficient against practical realities of survival. You don't discuss this, don't acknowledge fractured foundation, don't admit that partnership has become business arrangement, that love has become duty, that marriage has become cage you're both trapped in. Escape isn't option. Divorce isn't option. Leaving isn't option. So you stay, coexist. Pretend everything is fine while dying inside. Rose grows, turns 2, healthy, happy, oblivious to parents' suffering, to marriage dissolving, to dreams dying. Children that age don't notice, don't sense, don't understand. She just exists in moment, plays, laughs, lives life uncomplicated by adult knowledge of how thoroughly everything is broken. You watch her, wonder what her life will be, whether she'll remember these years, whether she'll understand the cost, whether she'll know how close she came to not existing, to losing parents to diphtheria, to growing up orphaned because bacteria smaller than dust killed the people who loved her. But she's here, alive, surviving, and maybe that's enough. Maybe survival is victory. Maybe continuing to exist despite everything is success. Maybe all the suffering was worth it if Rose survives, if she grows, if she has life you didn't have. future you couldn't imagine, possibilities you can't dream. Maybe, or maybe you're lying to yourself, creating meaning where none exists, telling story about purpose and value and worth to justify suffering that was meaningless, random, just bad luck in sequence too improbable to be anything except cosmic joke. You don't know, can't know, don't have perspective to judge, can only exist in moment, in day, in endless present where past is too painful to remember and future is too uncertain to imagine. So you work, you survive, you continue, because that's what frontier women do, what wives do, what mothers do. They continue, despite everything, through everything. Surviving even when surviving costs everything they are, and you've paid, in blood, in pain, in permanent damage to body and soul and marriage. You've paid more than anyone should have to pay, but you're still here, still standing, still surviving, and somehow, impossibly, that has to be enough. You're packing a wagon. October 1890. Everything you own fits in one wagon. That's not metaphor, not exaggeration. Everything. One wagon. Clothes, cooking pot, blankets, Rose's wooden spools, the sum total of 4 years of marriage, 4 years of labour, 4 years of suffering, reduced to volume that fits in farm wagon with room to spare. The claim is empty, sold, not for much. Land without house isn't worth much, especially when everyone knows why you're selling, knows you failed, knows you couldn't make it work, knows you're running. Defeated, broken, leaving with less than you arrived with, less money, less health, less hope. Almanzo loads the wagon slowly. His movements are careful, deliberate. The paralysis is permanent now. Everyone knows it. He knows it. You know it. The cane is constant companion. The limp is forever. The weakness in his hands means you have to help with loading, have to lift things he should lift, have to be strong when he can't be. The weather is cold. October in Dakota Territory. Early winter arriving. Snow already falling. You're leaving just in time. Another month and travel would be impossible. Another month and you'd be trapped here for winter. Trapped in town. Trapped in single room. Trapped in failure. Minnesota is the destination. Spring Valley. Almanzo's parents' farm. Running home to family. Admission of defeat more complete than selling claim. More humiliating than leaving town. You're going to live with his parents. Live as dependents. Live as people who couldn't make it alone. Who need help. Who failed at basic task of survival. Rose is almost 2. Old enough to walk. Old enough to talk. Not old enough to understand they're leaving. That this place will fade from memory. That she'll never remember the house that burned. The brother who died. The life that could have been. You're 23 years old. Look 40. Feel 60. The labour destroyed your body. The grief destroyed your spirit. The resentment destroyed your marriage. You and Almanzo exist in same space without occupying same world. Partners in survival, but strangers in everything else. The wagon creaks as you climb aboard. Almanzo follows, slower. Needing help, needing your hand to steady him, needing assistance for tasks he used to do thoughtlessly. The humiliation is in his eyes, the shame, the defeat. He's broken and he knows it, and knowing makes it worse. The horses start moving, prince and lady, still alive, still working, animals that survived everything, hail, fire, disease, poverty. They pull steady, patient, uncomplaining. Animals don't understand failure, don't judge, just work, just continue, just exist without the burden of knowing how completely everything fell apart. Smet disappears behind you. The town where you married, where Rose was born, where your son died, where your house burned, where 4 years of your life vanished into disaster so complete it feels designed, feels intentional, feels like punishment for crime you didn't commit. The prairie stretches empty, golden grass under grey sky, winter coming, cold arriving, the landscape that promised opportunity delivered only suffering, delivered only proof that hope is dangerous, that dreams cost everything, That frontier promise is lie disguised as possibility. Almanzo doesn't speak, hasn't spoken much in weeks. Depression has him, the kind that settles deep, that makes speaking feel pointless, that makes existing feel like burden. He's lost everything: identity, health, future, purpose. What's left is broken man going home to parents, returning to childhood because adulthood broke him. You hold Rose, she's sleeping, innocent, protected by youth from understanding what's happening, what's been lost, what future looks like now. She'll grow up knowing her parents failed, knowing they couldn't make it, knowing they ran home defeated. That knowledge will shape her, will teach her that failure is inevitable, that trying is pointless, that hope is delusion. The first night you camp, make fire, cook meal, sleep under wagon. The routine is familiar, but everything feels different. This isn't adventure. This is retreat. This is surrender. This is acknowledgement that 4 years accomplished nothing except breaking 2 people who started whole. Morning brings cold rain, freezing, miserable, the kind that soaks through everything, through clothes, through blankets, through skin into bones. You're shivering. Rose is crying. Almanzo is trying to harness horses with hands that won't cooperate, with fingers too weak to grip buckles, with body that fails at simple tasks. You help him. Again, always helping, always compensating. Always being strong when he can't be. The resentment is acid in your chest, burning, constant. You love him. Still, probably always will. But love doesn't prevent resentment, doesn't stop the poison of bitterness from spreading, doesn't make the burden lighter, doesn't make the future less bleak. The journey continues, day after day, mile after mile. Slow progress through landscape that all looks same, empty, endless, indifferent. Nature doesn't care about human suffering, doesn't notice failure, doesn't acknowledge that you're dying inside while pretending to be fine. Wisconsin border finally appears. You've left Dakota Territory, left the place that took everything, that consumed 4 years, that destroyed dreams, that proved frontier promises lie. You should feel relief, should feel hope, should feel something besides numbness. But numbness is all that remains, protective shell against feeling more pain, against acknowledging how completely you've been broken. Minnesota arrives, Spring Valley, small town, farming community, the place Almanzo came from, where his family lives, where you'll live now, as dependents, as failures, as people who couldn't survive alone. The humiliation tastes like copper, like blood, like shame that never washes away. His parents' farm appears, large, established, successful. Everything your farm wasn't, everything you failed to create. The comparison is crushing. Proof that failure was yours, that other people succeed where you failed, that maybe you just weren't good enough, weren't strong enough, weren't capable enough. James and Angeline Wilder greet you. Kind, welcoming. They don't judge, don't criticize, don't make you feel worse than you already feel. But their kindness is harder than cruelty, makes the failure more obvious, makes the dependence more humiliating, makes the reality more unbearable. They show you to room, small, clean, comfortable. More comfortable than anywhere you've lived in 4 years. Real bed, real walls, real roof that won't burn. Safety you haven't felt since before marriage. Safety that feels like prison because it comes at cost of independence. That night you lie beside Almanzo in borrowed bed, in borrowed house, eating borrowed food. Existing on charity, on family obligation, on pity disguised as help. You're 23 years old, should be building future, should be independent, should be succeeding. Instead you're back at beginning, starting over, admitting defeat. Almanzo's breathing is quiet, regular. He might be asleep, might be pretending, might be lying awake wrestling with same thoughts, same shame, same knowledge that coming here was necessary but feels like death, like end of everything you thought you'd be. everything you tried to become. Rose sleeps between you, growing, healthy despite everything, proof that some things survive disaster, some things remain innocent, remain untouched by failure that destroys adults. She'll grow up here, safe, fed, cared for, better than you could provide alone. That knowledge should comfort, should feel like victory, should prove that coming here was right choice, but it feels like surrender, like admitting you couldn't protect your own child, couldn't provide, couldn't be parents without help. That failure burns deeper than all the others, cuts closer, hurts more. Because it's admission that everything you tried was insufficient, that trying wasn't enough, that effort doesn't guarantee success. Tomorrow begins new life. Life as dependence, life in borrowed space, life admitting you couldn't make it alone. The future stretches uncertain, unknown, threatening, because you've learned the lesson. Frontier teaches best. Hoping is dangerous. Trying is painful. Surviving sometimes costs more than dying, and you're not sure how much more you can pay, how much more you can survive, how much more you can endure before something inside breaks permanently, before the numbness becomes permanent, before you stop being person and become just collection of functions, breathing, eating, existing, without really living at all. But you'll continue, because continuing is what you do, what frontier women do, what mothers do, even when continuing feels impossible, even when every instinct screams to quit, even when survival feels like cruelest punishment of all. You'll continue, and tomorrow will come, and life will go on, whether you want it to or not. You're standing in kitchen that isn't yours, January 1891, washing dishes that aren't yours, cooking food you didn't buy, living life that feels like pretending, like playing house in someone else's home, like existing without actually living. 3 months in Spring Valley, 3 months of recovery, 3 months of Almanzo resting, trying to regain strength, trying to heal body that won't heal, trying to believe that time and rest will reverse paralysis that doctors say is permanent, hope fighting medical reality, optimism battling truth. His improvement is minimal, marginal. The kind you might imagine more than observe. He can walk slightly better some days, worse other days, overall the same, paralyzed, limited, damaged. The rest isn't helping. The good food isn't helping. The warm house and lack of stress and family support aren't helping, because nerve damage doesn't heal from rest, doesn't reverse from hoping. You help Angeline with housework, cooking, cleaning, earning your keep, contributing to household that supports you. The work is easier than farm work, less physically demanding, but harder emotionally. Every task reminds you of dependence, of failure, of inability to maintain own household, own life, own independence. Rose is thriving, growing, learning to speak in sentences, playing with cousins, happy in a way she never was in Smet. Children don't mourn independence, don't miss autonomy, don't understand shame of living on charity. They just exist in moment, happier fed and safe and loved. Rose is all three. You should be grateful, are grateful. But gratitude feels like admission of inadequacy. James Wilder talks about Florida, warm climate, orange groves, opportunity, health restoration. He's heard stories, people moving south, finding relief from northern cold, finding healing in warmth and humidity, finding success in tropical paradise that welcomes settlers. Almanzo listens, interest growing, hope returning. Maybe warm climate will help. Maybe heat will heal what cold damaged. Maybe Florida is answer. Maybe moving again is solution. Maybe running from Minnesota will work better than running to Minnesota. You don't argue. Don't protest. Don't voice the knowledge that moving won't fix anything. That geography doesn't heal nerve damage. That changing location doesn't change fundamental reality. Because Almanzo needs hope, needs to believe something can help, needs to feel like he's doing something instead of just existing in parents' house waiting to die. The decision happens quickly. Florida, Westville, small settlement, land available, fruit trees, warm weather, possibility, the familiar pattern, the one you've lived through before, believing place will solve problems, believing location determines success, believing that this time will be different, this time will work, this time will save you. You leave Spring Valley in October 1891, 1 year after arriving, 1 year of rest that accomplished nothing except proving that rest doesn't cure paralysis. 1 year of dependence that taught nothing except that dependence feels like slow death. The journey south is long, endless. Train ride through changing landscape. Cold to warm, winter to summer, grey to green. The transformation is dramatic, obvious. Maybe this is sign. Maybe change of scenery brings change of fortune. Maybe hope is justified this time. Florida is shock, heat, humidity. Air so thick you can taste it, smell it, feel it like wet blanket wrapped around face. Breathing is work. Moving is swimming through soup. Existing is constant battle against climate that feels hostile, aggressive, deliberately uncomfortable. Westville is small, smaller than De Smet, smaller than Spring Valley. Collection of buildings and clearings surrounded by pine forest and palmetto scrub. Frontier settlement that makes Dakota Territory look civilized. Look developed, look welcoming. The people are few, scattered. The kind who came south running from something. Debt, law, failure. Nobody comes to Florida Panhandle because life is going well. They come because desperation drove them. Same desperation that drove you. Same hope that geography solves problems. Same delusion that moving equals improvement. You rent cabin. Small. Crude. Palmetto fronds for roof. Pine boards for walls. Gaps everywhere. Insects everywhere. Snakes everywhere. The wildlife is different, threatening, unfamiliar. Things that bite, things that sting, things that kill. Nature here isn't indifferent like prairie. It's actively hostile. The heat is unbearable, constant, relentless. No relief, no escape, no cool evening, no comfortable night. Just endless, crushing heat that makes thinking difficult, makes working impossible, makes existing feel like punishment, like living inside oven, like being slowly cooked alive. Rose hates it, cries constantly, miserable, too hot, too sticky, too uncomfortable. Childhood happiness from Spring Valley evaporates in Florida heat, replaced by constant distress, constant discomfort, constant evidence that this was a terrible mistake. Almanzo's health doesn't improve, gets worse. Heat doesn't heal paralysis. Humidity doesn't reverse nerve damage. Warm climate doesn't cure anything except cold. His depression deepens, darkens. The hope that drove him to Florida dies in the heat, dies in the disappointment, dies in the crushing realization that moving solved nothing, changed nothing, helped nothing. You're dying too, slowly. The heat is killing you, making you sick, making you weak, making you understand that you weren't made for this climate, this place, this desperate gamble on geography solving medical problems. Your body rejects Florida, revolts against heat and humidity and air that tastes like swamp water. The months crawl by, endless, miserable. You try to grow vegetables, they die. Try to make cabin comfortable, impossible. Try to believe this will work, can't. The evidence is overwhelming, obvious, undeniable. Florida is mistake, terrible mistake, potentially fatal mistake if you stay much longer. 8 months. That's how long you last. 8 months of hell disguised as tropical paradise. 8 months of proving that running from problems doesn't solve them. 8 months of learning that desperation makes poor decisions. That hope without foundation is delusion. That believing geography matters more than health is fantasy. August 1892. You give up. Admit defeat. Again. Pack wagon. Again. Prepare to run. Again. This time running from Florida. Running from heat. Running from failed experiment in climate cure. running from another year wasted, another hope destroyed, another piece of soul consumed by failure. Almanzo doesn't protest, doesn't argue, doesn't try to convince you to stay. He knows, sees the truth, understands Florida failed, understands he's getting worse, not better, understands that staying might kill all of you, that admitting defeat is survival strategy, that running is sometimes wisest choice. The journey north is relief, immediate, profound, leaving heat behind, leaving humidity behind, leaving failure behind, returning to familiar, to tolerable, to climate that doesn't actively assault you. The relief is physical, emotional, spiritual, like emerging from prison, like being allowed to breathe again, like surviving something that nearly killed you. The Smet appears on horizon, full circle, back where you started, back to place you fled 2 years ago, back to town that watched you fail. That knows your story, that will judge your return. Prodigal daughter returning, not to celebration, to whispers, to knowing looks, to confirmation that everyone's suspicions were correct, that you couldn't make it, that failure was inevitable. You're 25 years old, look 50, feel ancient. 2 years of additional suffering added to 4 years of original suffering. 6 years of marriage, 6 years of continuous disaster. 6 years of proof that trying accomplishes nothing except accumulating scars. Physical, emotional, spiritual, the kind that never fully heal, that mark you permanently, that change who you are fundamentally. But you're alive. Rose is alive. Almanzo is alive. Survival is something. Maybe not victory, maybe not success, maybe just not dying. But on Frontier, not dying qualifies as achievement, qualifies as reason to continue, qualifies as enough justification to face tomorrow even when tomorrow looks bleak, impossible, unbearable. Tomorrow will come and you'll face it. Because that's what you do, what you've always done, what you'll keep doing until body or spirit breaks completely, until survival becomes impossible, until continuing costs more than stopping. But that day hasn't arrived yet, so you'll continue, will survive. Will endure, even when enduring feels like cruelest fate of all. You're sewing in dim lamplight. December 1892. Your eyes ache, your fingers cramp. You've been sewing for 10 hours, straight, without break. Because this work pays $1. $1 buys week's groceries. Week's groceries keeps family fed. Simple equation, brutal equation. Equation that defines your life now. You're back into Smet, living in town, renting room, different room, same poverty, same dependence, same desperate scramble to survive day to day. 2 years of running, Minnesota, Florida, back to South Dakota. All that travel, all that hope, all that effort, accomplished nothing except wasting time, wasting money, wasting what little strength remained. Almanzo does odd jobs, carpentry, painting, anything that doesn't require strength he doesn't have, pays little. Barely enough to supplement your sewing income. Together you make just enough to pay rent, buy food, exist, not live, just exist, survive, continue breathing while wondering why continuing matters. Rose is 3, growing despite poverty, despite constant moving, despite parents who are shells of people, empty husks going through motions, pretending normalcy, pretending stability, pretending everything is fine when everything is catastrophically broken. The sewing work destroys your eyes, dim light, close work, hours of focusing on tiny stitches. Your vision is deteriorating, headaches constant, but stopping is an option. Work equals food, no work equals starvation. Simple as that. So you continue, keep sewing, keep ruining your eyes, keep sacrificing body parts to survival. First hand scarred, now eyes failing. What's next? What else will Frontier take before it's satisfied? Winter is hard, room is cold, coal is expensive. You burn minimum, stay cold, wear layers, huddle together for warmth. Poverty is cold, literally, figuratively, emotionally. It freezes everything, kills comfort, kills hope, kills the warm feelings that make life worth living. Almanzo is distant, more distant than before. Depression has him completely now, the kind that doesn't lift, doesn't respond to anything, just settles deep and dark and permanent. He's lost, gone, still physically present but emotionally absent. The man you married is dead, replaced by a broken stranger who shares your space, shares your bed, shares your life, without sharing anything meaningful. The distance between you is canyon, unbridgeable, created by years of disaster, years of resentment, years of unspoken anger, years of blaming each other while claiming not to. Marriage is arrangement now, business partnership, survival strategy, not love, not connection, not relationship in any meaningful sense. Just two people existing together because separating is impossible, because divorce is scandal, because frontier women endure, always endure, never leave, never quit, never admit that staying is sometimes worse than leaving. You think about teaching, could apply for position, could earn better money, could escape sewing that's destroying your eyes. But married women teaching is complicated. Schools prefer unmarried, fewer obligations, more dedication, less distraction. And admitting you need to teach admits Almanzo can't provide, admits his inadequacy publicly, makes his failure official. He'd never allow it. Pride won't permit it. Better to suffer in private than admit defeat in public. So you sow, hour after hour, day after day, month after month, destroying your body, destroying your spirit, destroying everything except basic survival. And survival keeps demanding more sacrifice, more pain, more pieces of yourself surrendered to altar of continuing, of not dying, of existing another day even when existing feels pointless. Spring 1893 brings talk of Missouri. Ozarks, land cheap, fruit trees possible, new start possible, the familiar refrain, the one you've heard before. Minnesota was supposed to be answer. Florida was supposed to be cure. Now Missouri is supposed to be salvation. The pattern is obvious. Desperate. Moving doesn't solve problems. Geography doesn't heal wounds. Running doesn't work. But what else is there? Staying in Smet means slow death, means poverty forever, means watching Rose grow up in room barely larger than closet, watching her learn that this is normal, that suffering is expected, that life is endurance contest with no prize for winning. So maybe Missouri, maybe trying again, maybe believing one more time that this time will be different, this time will work, this time won't end in disaster. Hope is expensive, costs everything, delivers nothing, but without it, what remains? Despair? Surrender? Giving up completely? Those aren't options, can't be options, because Rose deserves better, deserves parents who try, who fight, who refuse to quit even when quitting makes sense, even when continuing seems insane, even when hope is obvious delusion. You save money, slowly, impossibly slowly, $1 here, $2 there, hiding coins from expenses that demand them, choosing hunger over spending, choosing cold over coal, choosing sacrifice over comfort. The pile grows inadequately, insufficient for major move, but growing, proving that discipline works, that denial creates possibility, that suffering now might produce better future. Almanzo saves too, his odd jobs, his carpentry, his painting, his humiliation earning pennies for work that should pay dollars, his pride dying daily as he accepts jobs below his capability, below his training, below his dignity. But pride doesn't feed family, doesn't pay rent, doesn't create future, so pride dies, sacrificed to survival, added to pile of things destroyed by 6 years of marriage. By summer 1894, you have $100. Not enough. Nowhere near enough. but something. Starting point. Foundation. Possibility. Missouri land costs 400. You have 100. Math is brutal, clear, impossible. But math has been impossible before, and you've survived. Found ways, made it work. Maybe this time too, maybe somehow, maybe impossibly. The decision happens. Missouri, Mansfield. 40 acres, timber, rocky. Poor quality, but cheap, affordable, possible. You'll buy it. Move there. Start over. Again. Another attempt. Another gamble. Another prayer that this time geography matters. This time location determines fate. This time hope is justified. You're 27 years old, married 6 years, survived 4 homes, 2 states, multiple disasters, more suffering than most people experience in lifetimes. You're broken, damaged, scarred physically and emotionally beyond repair. But you're alive, still fighting, still trying. Still refusing to surrender even when surrender seems wise. Missouri waits, unknown, uncertain, possibly terrible, possibly wonderful, probably somewhere between. Another chapter, another attempt, another roll of dice that may land anywhere. Success, failure, something between. You don't know, can't know, can only try, can only move forward, can only believe that trying matters even when evidence suggests otherwise. Tomorrow you leave. Tomorrow begins new journey. Tomorrow starts new hope, new possibility, new chance. And maybe, this time will be different. This time will work. This time will prove that all the suffering had purpose, had meaning, had value beyond just surviving. Or maybe not. Maybe Missouri brings new disasters, new suffering, new scars, new reasons to regret. New proof that hope is delusion and trying is pointless and survival is cruelest joke of all. You'll find out, soon enough, tomorrow, when journey begins, when hope gets tested, when life proves once again whether faith or despair is wiser philosophy. But tonight you're still in Smet, still in rented room, still in poverty, still in life you're desperate to escape. Tomorrow brings change, brings movement, brings possibility that change equals improvement, equals healing, equals future worth living. Tomorrow brings Missouri, and with it, one more chance, one more hope, one more attempt to prove that 6 years of hell weren't for nothing, that suffering serves purpose, that endurance earns reward, one more chance, the last one. Because if Missouri fails, nothing remains. No more moves, no more hopes. No more beliefs that geography solves problems. Just acceptance that this is life. This is all it will ever be. This is the future, forever. Tomorrow, Missouri. The final gamble, the last hope. The desperate prayer that this time, finally, impossibly, things will be different. They have to be. Because you can't survive another failure, can't endure another disaster, can't continue if this doesn't work. Missouri has to work, has to succeed, has to save you, because nothing else can, nothing else remains. This is it, the final attempt, the last hope, the end of the line, and tomorrow it begins. You're pregnant again. Summer 1889. 1 year after diphtheria nearly killed you both. 1 year after paralysis stole Almanzo's strength. 1 year after discovering that survival sometimes costs more than dying. Your body shouldn't be doing this, shouldn't be creating life after everything it's endured, after diphtheria, after starvation-level labour, after losing 20 pounds you didn't have to lose. Your body is broken, scarred, damaged beyond what frontier medicine can measure. But biology doesn't care about damage, doesn't wait for permission, doesn't ask if timing is right. The pregnancy is difficult, worse than Rose. Your body remembers the trauma, the 10-pound baby, the stitches, the fever, the pain that made death look merciful. Every day of this pregnancy is a reminder of what's coming, what you'll have to survive. Again, without chloroform, without real medical help, without anything except your own collapsing body and prayer that might not be answered. Almanzo is worried. You can see it, feel it. He doesn't speak it because speaking fear makes fear real. But his eyes follow you, watch you, calculate whether you'll survive this, whether he'll lose you the way frontier men lose wives, the way childbirth kills women more reliably than disease or accident or violence. Rose is 2.5, old enough to sense tension, young enough not to understand. She plays with her wooden spools while you try to breathe through nausea, through exhaustion, through the constant low-grade panic of knowing your body might fail, knowing childbirth might kill you, knowing that women die doing this and nobody calls it tragedy, just calls it natural, calls it God's will, calls it the cost of being female on frontier where female bodies are disposable. The claim shanty is deteriorating, walls sagging, roof leaking. The structure that survived fire is dying slowly from neglect, from poverty, from inability to maintain anything when you're barely maintaining survival. You live in decay, surrounded by evidence of failure, of dreams dying, of hope rotting like timbers that once held up walls. Listen to the sounds, wind through gaps, mice in walls, Rose coughing, that wet rattling cough that means respiratory infection, means immune system weakened by malnutrition and stress, and living in mouldy structure that's slowly poisoning everyone inside it. You should move, should leave, should find better housing, but moving costs money. Money requires income. Income requires work. Work requires strength. And strength is commodity none of you possess. July brings heat, oppressive, relentless, the kind that makes pregnancy feel like punishment. Like carrying another human inside you while slowly cooking alive. Your belly is enormous. The baby is large. You can feel it, know it, dread it. Another 10-pound baby trying to destroy you on the way out. Another childbirth that might kill you. Another gamble with survival where odds aren't in your favour. Almanzo's paralysis is stable, not better, not worse, just permanently limited. He can walk with cane, can do light work, can't farm properly, can't provide adequately, can't be the man he imagined being. The frustration is eating him. You can see it, feel it. The depression is deepening, darkening, becoming permanent feature of personality that used to be optimistic, hopeful, capable of believing tomorrow would be better, but tomorrow is never better. Tomorrow brings same poverty, same limitations, same grinding reality that you're failing, that 4 years of marriage accomplished nothing except breaking two people who started whole, that love isn't enough, that trying isn't enough, that hope is delusion disguised as virtue. The contractions start on August 5th, 1889, evening. You're alone with Rose. Almanzo is in town running errands, trying to find odd jobs, trying to be useful, trying to contribute despite body that won't cooperate. The pain is immediate, sharp, different from Rose's birth, faster, more urgent, more dangerous. You send word to town, get your mother, get the doctor, get help because this baby's coming now, and you know, somehow you know, that something is wrong, that timing is wrong, that speed is wrong, that everything about this birth feels like threat instead of promise. Caroline arrives first, your mother. The woman who's birthed 5 living children and buried 1 son, who knows childbirth intimately, who understands danger when she sees it. Her face is calm, professional, but her eyes are worried, calculating, measuring whether you'll survive this, whether this baby will survive this, whether the family will lose daughter or grandchild or both. The labour is fast, too fast. Your body is trying to expel this baby, trying to reject the burden, trying to survive by sacrificing what's inside. The pain is beyond description, beyond anything you've experienced, makes previous childbirth look gentle, makes diphtheria look merciful. This is body at war with itself, body choosing survival over creation, body saying enough. The baby comes before the doctor arrives, born into your mother's hands, born into shanty that smells like mould and decay. Born into poverty so complete that his first breath tastes like failure. Born into family that can barely feed 3 people and now has 4. Born into a world that doesn't want him, that can't sustain him, that will kill him before he has chance to prove he deserves existence. He's big, 10 pounds, maybe more. Another massive baby from body that weighs 90 pounds. Another impossible extraction that tears you, damages you, leaves you bleeding and broken on bed that's seen too much suffering, too much trauma, too much evidence that creating life costs everything. But he's alive, breathing, crying, making sounds that mean survival, that mean lungs work, that mean heartbeats, that mean this baby wants to live despite everything suggesting he shouldn't, that he can't. That survival is impossible in circumstances that can barely sustain existing family. Almanzo arrives, stares at his son, second child, first boy, the child who's supposed to carry his name, his legacy, his proof that paralysis didn't steal everything, that he's still man, still father, still capable of creating future even when present is collapsing. But looking at this baby, this unnamed baby, because naming requires hope and hope is dangerous, Almanzo's face shows something besides joy, shows fear, shows recognition that another mouth means more poverty, more struggle, more impossible mathematics of survival, shows understanding that love isn't enough when you can't feed the children you create, when you can't provide basic necessities, when existence itself is achievement and thriving is fantasy. The doctor arrives late. Too late to help with birth, just in time to assess damage, to stitch tears, to stop bleeding that won't stop on its own, to save mother who might not survive, who might bleed out from childbirth that damages faster than body can heal, who might die in bed while baby cries and husband watches helpless. But you don't die, don't bleed out, don't get mercy of escape, just survive. Again, another impossible survival. Another proof that dying isn't easy even when dying would solve everything, would end suffering, would stop the relentless grinding poverty and pain and failure that defines existence. The baby nurses, strong latch, good sucker, signs of health, signs of survival. But something is wrong. You can feel it, sense it, the way mothers know things without knowing how they know. The way intuition screams warnings that can't be articulated, can't be explained, can only be felt in gut that's rarely wrong about danger. The days crawl by, hot, miserable. Your body's recovering slowly, too slowly. The blood loss was severe, the damage extensive. You're weak, feverish, possibly infected, possibly dying slowly from childbirth complications that kill women routinely. Quietly, without drama, just slow fade into death that looks like normal recovery until suddenly it's not. The baby cries constantly, that piercing newborn cry that means discomfort, hunger, pain. Existence is suffering for newborn, especially newborn born into poverty, into mould-filled shanty, into family stretched beyond capacity, into circumstances that ensure suffering before survival, pain before peace, struggle before any possibility of stability. Rose is confused, jealous, suddenly irrelevant. The baby consumes everything, all attention, all energy, all resources. She's 2.5, old enough to notice, to resent, to act out, to make everything harder when everything is already impossible. Childhood regression, tantrums, demands, the normal response of toddler whose world just shifted, whose parents disappeared into baby care, whose existence became secondary to survival of newest family member. Almanzo tries to help, limited, inadequate. His damaged hands struggle with diaper changes. His weakened body can't carry baby and walk simultaneously. His depression makes patience impossible, makes gentleness hard, makes the constant crying feel like personal attack, like proof of failure, like evidence that he can't even provide quiet, can't even give family peace, can't even accomplish the basic task of keeping household calm. 3 weeks pass, 21 days of survival, 21 days of baby breathing, nursing, growing, doing everything babies should do, everything that suggests health, normalcy, future. You still haven't named him, can't name him, Naming is commitment. Naming is hope. Naming is believing he'll survive long enough to need identity beyond baby or him or the boy. August 26th, 1889. Morning. The baby is sleeping. Finally. Peacefully. The crying has stopped. The house is quiet. Quiet enough to feel like relief. Like mercy. Like maybe today will be easier than yesterday. Maybe today you'll start to recover, start to adjust, start to believe that family of 4 is sustainable. You go to nurse him. Midday feeding. The routine you've established. The pattern that structures days, that gives purpose. That makes survival feel like accomplishment instead of just not dying. He's not breathing. The words don't make sense at first. Can't make sense. Babies breathe. Living things breathe. Silence is wrong. Stillness is wrong. Everything is wrong. You touch him, shake him, scream for Almanzo, scream for help, scream for God to reverse this, to undo this, to prove that hope isn't always punished, that love isn't always destroyed, that creating life doesn't guarantee death. But God doesn't answer, never answers, not when you need him, not when you're begging, not when reversing reality would prove mercy exists, just silence, terrible silence, the kind that confirms worst fears, that proves suspicions correct, that demonstrates universe is indifferent, that suffering has no purpose, that loss is random, that nothing you do matters because fate is cruel and hope is delusion. You're holding a dead baby. August 26th, 1889. Afternoon. The body is cooling in your arms, getting stiff, getting cold, transforming from person to thing, from sun to corpse, from future to memory. The transformation happens fast, faster than you expected, faster than seems fair. Life to death in hours, person to object, love to loss. Almanzo is frozen, standing, staring, not moving, not speaking, not processing. Shock has him, the kind that shuts down thinking, that makes reality unreal, that creates protective distance between event and comprehension, because comprehending would break something permanently, would shatter something that can't be repaired, would prove that hope kills, that trying destroys, that loving guarantees pain. Your mother takes the baby, gently, carefully, like he's still alive, like gentleness matters, like respect for dead infant body changes anything. She begins preparations, washing, dressing, the rituals that transform death into manageable task, that give structure to chaos, that provide something to do when doing nothing would mean feeling everything. Rose doesn't understand, too young, too innocent, asks where baby went, why baby sleeping so long, when baby wake up. The questions are knives, each one cutting deeper, each one proving that innocence is temporary, that childhood ends, that learning about death means losing something that can't be recovered. You don't answer, can't answer, have no words for explaining death to toddler when you can't explain death to yourself, when it makes no sense, when baby was healthy, was nursing, was fine, then suddenly wasn't, suddenly stopped, suddenly died without warning or reason or any logic that makes death acceptable. The doctor comes too late, again, always too late, examines the body, asks questions, takes notes, tries to determine cause, tries to find explanation, tries to make sense of senseless death. But there's no answer, no obvious cause, no clear reason, just dead baby, just ended life. Just another frontier tragedy that happens routinely, constantly, without explanation or justice or any cosmic fairness. Spasms, you tell him. The baby had spasms, convulsions, seizures maybe, something neurological, something sudden, something that killed fast, too fast for help, too fast for doctor, too fast for anything except holding dying baby and watching life drain away while being powerless to stop it, to reverse it. To prevent the inevitable. Could be anything, the doctor says. Infection, birth injury, developmental defect, neurological disorder, or nothing. Sometimes babies just die. No reason, no cause, No explanation except that human life is fragile, that infants are vulnerable, that frontier conditions kill, that poverty kills, that circumstances like yours create death more reliably than they create survival. The funeral is the next day. Fast. You can't keep bodies in August heat. Can't delay burial when temperatures are this high, when decomposition starts immediately, when dead babies turn into horror show if not buried quickly. Efficiency replaces mourning. Speed replaces grief. Practicality replaces any luxury of proper grieving. The grave is small, too small. The sight of tiny coffin going into ground is wrongness embodied. Is proof that universe is chaos, that order is illusion, that babies shouldn't die, that parents shouldn't bury children, that love shouldn't end in dirt and silence and permanent absence. You don't cry, can't cry. Crying is luxury for people who have reserves, who have capacity for feeling beyond numb survival mode. You're empty, hollow, a shell containing nothing except the effort required to stand, to breathe, to continue existing when existing feels pointless. When everything you create dies, when everything you love is destroyed, when trying accomplishes nothing except proving that trying is futile. Almanzo is beside you, silent, broken. This death broke something in him that diphtheria and paralysis couldn't break. Broke hope, broke belief in future, broke the last remaining piece of optimism that survived everything else. His son is dead. His legacy is dead. His proof of manhood is dead. Buried. Gone. Reduced to memory of baby who lived 3 weeks and died nameless, because naming was hope, and hope was dangerous. The preacher speaks. Words about God's plan, about heaven, about reunion someday, about suffering being temporary. The words are empty, meaningless, insulting. There's no plan that justifies dead baby, no heaven that compensates for loss, no reunion that makes burial acceptable, just empty religious platitudes disguised as comfort, offered by man who's never held dead child, who's never buried son, who's never felt hope die in arms while doctors arrive too late. Days blur after. You can't remember them, don't want to remember them. Time becomes meaningless. Structure collapses. Only thing that matters is breathing, moving, feeding rows. Doing minimum required to survive because survival is still mandatory, still required, still happening despite wanting it to stop, despite wishing you could stop, despite understanding that stopping would be relief. The milk comes in. Your breasts are full, engorged, painful, leaking milk for baby who can't drink it, for son who doesn't exist, for future that died. The physical reminder is torture, evidence that body doesn't know, doesn't understand, keeps preparing to feed baby who's buried, who's gone, who will never nurse again, never need you again, never exist again. You bind your breasts, stop the milk, force your body to understand what your mind can't accept. That baby is dead, that milk is unnecessary, that maternal functions are obsolete. That motherhood of son lasted 3 weeks and ended in grave too small to seem real. Almanzo doesn't speak, hasn't spoken since funeral, just exists, just moves through days, just performs minimum required tasks. The depression has him completely now, has consumed him, has transformed him from person to ghost, from man to empty shell, from husband to stranger who shares space without sharing anything meaningful. The distance between you is canyon, unbridgeable, created by grief too large to share, by pain too deep to articulate, by loss that makes connection impossible. You're both drowning, both dying slowly, both surviving in bodies that keep living despite wishing they'd stop. Rose clings to you, constant, desperate, sensing that something is terribly wrong, that her world is unstable, that her parents are ghosts, that family is fracturing. Children sense things adults try to hide, sense danger, sense instability, sense that safe foundation is collapsing beneath them. 1 week after burial, Almanzo goes to barn. Morning chores, feeding stock, maintaining minimum required farm operations. You're inside with Rose, making breakfast, going through motions, performing tasks that structure days when structure is all that prevents complete collapse. You smell smoke, not wood smoke, not cooking smoke, different smoke, urgent smoke, danger smoke, the smell that means fire, that means threat, that means disaster is happening now, right now, while you're inside, while Almanzo is outside, while Rose is vulnerable, while everything combustible is waiting for spark to become inferno. You run to door. The barn is burning. No, not barn. Worse. The haystack. The slough hay stored near house. The fuel supply for winter. The feed for animals. The flammable material position too close to structure. Too close to home. Too close to everything you can't afford to lose. The flames are spreading. Fast. Too fast. Wind is driving them, pushing them toward house, toward shanty full of wood and fabric and everything that burns, toward structure containing your daughter, your possessions, your life, such as it is, such as it's become. Almanzo is trying to stop it, throwing water, beating flames, using damaged body to fight fire that's already winning, that's already unstoppable, that's already consuming everything. He can't stop it. Can't slow it, can't do anything except watch 4 years of work burn, watch investment disappear, watch hope die. Again, for 100th time, for final time, you grab Rose, 1 bucket of water thrown at house, useless, inadequate, futile. You're not strong enough to pump more, not strong enough to fight fire, not strong enough to save anything, can only save daughter, can only run, can only survive. Again. 1 more impossible survival. 1 more proof that dying would be mercy, and mercy is denied. Outside you collapse, screaming, not at fire, at universe, at God, at fate that keeps destroying everything, that keeps taking everything, that keeps proving that hope is curse, and trying is punishment and loving guarantees loss. You scream until voice breaks, until throat bleeds, until sound becomes animal noise. Raw, primal, the sound of person breaking completely. Almanzo finds you, pulls you further from flames, away from danger, away from house that's already lost, already gone, already reduced to ash and memory. He sits beside you, doesn't speak, doesn't comfort, doesn't do anything except exist in same space, sharing catastrophe, sharing loss, sharing the crushing realization that you've lost everything. Son, house, hope, future, everything except each other. And each other isn't enough, hasn't been enough, won't ever be enough to make this bearable. The house burns completely. Nothing salvageable, nothing saved. The deed box survived. Papers, documentation, legal proof that you own land without house, that you have claim without structure, that you possess nothing except dirt and ash, and the memories of 4 years spent suffering for nothing. Rose watches silently, too shocked to cry, to react, to process, just watches, internalizes, learns the lesson Frontier teaches best. Everything you love will be destroyed. Everything you build will burn. Everything you hope for will fail. This is life. This is reality. This is what existence costs. And cost is always too high, always unbearable, always proof that trying is mistake, that hoping is delusion, that believing in better future is fantasy that guarantees suffering. You sit in dirt holding daughter while watching your life burn. 1 week after burying son, 1 month after thinking maybe, things were stabilizing. Maybe this time would be different. Maybe hope was justified. It wasn't. It never is. Hope is always punished. Love is always destroyed. Trying is always futile. And you finally learned the lesson, finally understood, finally accepted that frontier promises lie, that dreams are delusion, that survival is cruelest fate of all. But what other choice exists? Death? Giving up? Walking away from 4 years of investment? admitting complete defeat, accepting total failure. Those aren't options, can't be options, because you have rows, because quitting means losing claim, because starting over somewhere else is impossible when you have nothing, when you are nothing, when hope is dead but survival continues anyway, mandatory, unavoidable, punishing, so you'll continue. We'll survive, we'll find somewhere to live, we'll somehow rebuild, we'll somehow keep going, because that's what frontier women do, what mothers do, what wives do, even when continuing is torture, even when survival costs everything, even when hope is dead and love has failed and trying has accomplished nothing except proving that trying is pointless. You'll continue, because you have no choice, because choosing is luxury, because frontier doesn't allow choices, just forces survival, just demands continuation, just punishes until punishment becomes normal, until suffering becomes identity, until loss becomes expectation. And somewhere in the distance Missouri waits, unknown, uncertain, possibly salvation, probably just different disaster. Another failed attempt, another proof that geography doesn't matter, that location doesn't solve problems, that running doesn't work. But you'll try anyway, 'cause trying is all that's left, even when trying is futile, even when hope is dangerous, even when every attempt ends in catastrophe. You'll try, and probably fail, again. Because failure is pattern, failure is certainty, failure is what 4 years taught you to expect. But first, you have to survive today. Survive this moment. Survive sitting in dirt, watching everything burn while holding daughter who depends on you. Who needs you? Who deserves better than broken mother and paralyzed father and frontier that destroys everything? You'll survive, somehow, because surviving is all you know, all you do, all you're capable of doing. Even when surviving feels like cruelest punishment of all. You're in a wagon, July 1894, 5 years after your son died, 5 years after the fire, 5 years of poverty and failure and grinding survival that accomplished nothing except proving you can't be killed easily. That frontier can't finish you despite trying, despite throwing everything, despite making death look like mercy and mercy like impossible luxury. The wagon holds everything you own. Again, same pattern, same story, same proof that accumulation is impossible, that possessions are temporary, that everything material is illusion. You'll always fit in one wagon. We'll always be able to pack entire life in hours. We'll always be people who own nothing and have nothing and are nothing except bodies that refuse to die. Missouri is the destination. Mansfield. 40 acres purchased on credit, borrowed money, debt. The familiar pattern of frontier gambling, betting on geography, believing location matters, hoping this place will be different. This time will work. This attempt will succeed where all others failed. Rose is 7 now, old enough to remember De Smet, old enough to miss the town, old enough to understand their running. Again. Moving because staying means admitting defeat. Moving because elsewhere might be better. Moving because motion feels like progress, even when it's just running from failure toward different failure. Almanzo drives, silent. He's been silent for years. The man you married is gone, dead as surely as your son is dead, replaced by damaged stranger who shares your space, shares your life, shares your continued existence without sharing anything meaningful. Marriage is arrangement now. Partnership for survival. Nothing romantic, nothing emotional, nothing except two people bound by law and custom, and lack of alternatives. The limp is permanent, the paralysis is permanent, the damage is permanent. Everything that diphtheria destroyed stayed destroyed. Everything that frontier took stayed taken. He's broken, you're broken, marriage is broken, future is broken, everything except determination to continue, to survive, to keep going despite evidence that going is pointless. The journey south is long, days of travel, days of watching landscape change, days of hoping scenery matters, that climate matters, that Missouri will be magic, will be salvation, will be the answer to 5 years of suffering. The hope is cautious, tentative, scarred by experience, protected by realism, tempered by knowledge that hope is dangerous. The believing leads to disappointment. That expectation guarantees suffering. Mansfield appears, small town, smaller than De Smet, surrounded by hills, trees, green, different from prairie, different from Dakota flatness, different from everything familiar. The difference feels like possibility, like maybe here things can be different, maybe here you can succeed, maybe here suffering ends and building begins. Rocky Ridge Farm, that's what you'll call it. Eventually, when it deserves name, when it's more than 40 acres of rocky, tree-covered land nobody else wanted, when it's farmable, livable, sustainable, but that's future, that's possibility, that's hope disguised as plan. Today it's just rocks and trees and small log cabin, one room, dirt floor, roof that leaks, structure that makes De Smet shanty look luxurious, makes poverty visible, makes starting over mean starting from nothing, from less than nothing, from debt and rocks and land nobody wanted because land is worthless without ability to work it, without strength to clear it, without resources to develop it. But it's yours, legally, on paper, with debt attached, with obligation to pay $400 you don't have, with mortgage that demands success, that requires profit, that punishes failure with loss of everything, with homelessness, with proof that you can't make it, that you're inadequate, that trying isn't enough. The first weeks are survival. Finding food, finding water, making cabin livable. Rose sleeps in corner. You and Almanzo sleep on floor. Everyone is uncomfortable. Everyone is miserable. Everyone is wondering if this was mistake, if Missouri is different disaster. If running from Dakota accomplished nothing except wasting time and money and what little hope remained. But slowly, impossibly slowly, things improve, not dramatically, not obviously, just incrementally. Tiny improvements that accumulate, that build, that create possibility where none existed. Almanzo can cut firewood, can clear land, can work if pace is slow, if expectations are low, if nobody demands normal productivity from damaged body. You work constantly. Gardening, laundry, sewing, cooking, every domestic task that generates pennies, that contributes, that builds toward debt payment, toward survival, toward possibility of owning land outright, of not owing anyone, of being independent. Finally, after 9 years of marriage, after 9 years of failure, after 9 years of proving that frontier destroys more dreams than it fulfills, the land is rocky, hence the name you'll eventually choose, Rocky Ridge. Accurate, brutal, honest. This place is hard, unforgiving, difficult, just like everywhere else, just like Dakota, just like Minnesota, just like Florida. Hard place for hard people doing hard work with no guarantee of success, no promise of reward, no assurance that trying matters, but you keep trying. Because trying is what you do, what you've always done, what you'll always do. Trying despite evidence, trying despite history, trying despite knowledge that trying often fails. That effort doesn't guarantee results. That working hard means nothing when circumstances are impossible. Years pass, Rose grows, helps, contributes, learns that childhood on frontier means work, means labour, means no leisure, no play, no luxury of being child, just early adulthood, early responsibility, early understanding that survival requires everyone contributing, that family is economic unit where every member must produce or unit fails, the debt slowly decreases, payment by payment, dollar by dollar, painful progress measured in coins saved, in pennies accumulated, in sacrifice compounded. You eat less, spend less, want less, until wanting disappears, until needs become minimal, until survival is success, and success is survival, and nothing beyond basic existence seems possible or desirable. Almanzo ages badly. The paralysis worsens, the limp deepens. The pain increases. Damaged nerves don't heal, don't improve, just deteriorate. Just remind him daily of what diphtheria took, what frontier cost, what marriage to you meant. He'll limp for 60 more years, 60 years of daily reminder, 60 years of physical evidence that 1888 destroyed him, that recovery is myth, that damage is permanent. You age badly too. The scars are internal, invisible, but permanent. The labour destroyed your hands. The childbirth damaged your body. The grief hollowed your spirit. You're 37 years old and look 60. Feel 80. Exist in constant pain that's so normal you don't mention it. Don't complain, just endure. Like frontier women do, like mothers do, like wives do. Silently suffering while pretending everything is fine, Rose leaves eventually, grows up, moves away, becomes writer. Becomes successful. Becomes proof that surviving frontier childhood doesn't doom you, doesn't prevent achievement, doesn't guarantee replication of parents' failure. She'll write about you, about Almanzo, about the life you lived, but she'll soften it, edit it, make it palatable for readers who can't handle unfiltered truth about frontier life, about poverty, about suffering, about what surviving really costs. Decades later, you'll write too. We'll tell stories. We'll create books. We'll become famous for romanticizing childhood that was anything but romantic. For prettifying poverty. For making frontier seem like adventure instead of survival contest. For lying to children about what prairie life cost, what it took, what it destroyed. But that's future. That's decades away. That's after time has dulled memory, has softened horror, has made past seem better than it was because present is bearable, and past is always worse when living it than when remembering it. Today, August 1894, you're sitting on porch of log cabin watching sunset over Missouri hills, Rocky Ridge Farm, your land, your future, your last attempt. You're 27 years old, 9 years married, survived diphtheria, paralysis, hailstorm, drought, fire, death of son who lived 3 weeks and died nameless because naming was hope and hope was dangerous. You never speak of him, never mention him, never acknowledge that he existed. Rose doesn't know, won't know for decades, won't learn about her brother until she's old woman reading will, finding clause about maintaining cemetery plot, asking questions, discovering secret her parents kept for 50 years. Why the silence? Why the erasure? Why pretending he never existed? Because speaking makes it real, makes loss present, makes grief permanent. Because frontier women don't mourn publicly, don't display weakness, don't admit that losing son broke something that can't be repaired. They just continue, just survive. Just pretend the baby who lived 3 weeks didn't matter, didn't count, wasn't real enough to grieve publicly, but he was real. He mattered, he counted, and you never stopped grieving, never moved past loss, never recovered from August 1889 when son died and house burned and hope died and future evaporated. You just learned to survive around the wound, to exist despite pain, to continue despite brokenness. That's the real story of frontier, not adventure, not romance, not triumph, just survival, just endurance, just continuing despite everything, despite loss. Despite grief, despite knowing that everything you love will probably be destroyed, that everything you build will probably fail, that hope is dangerous and trying is painful and loving guarantees loss. But you try anyway, build anyway, love anyway. Because what else exists? Giving up, quitting, dying? Those aren't options for frontier women, for mothers, for wives. They just continue, just endure, just survive, until survival becomes identity, becomes achievement, becomes the only victory possible in life that doesn't allow winning. And maybe that's enough. Maybe survival is triumph. Maybe continuing despite everything is victory. Maybe 60 more years of limping and working and building something from nothing proves that Frontier didn't win, didn't destroy you, didn't accomplish what it tried so hard to do. Or maybe survival is just not dying. Maybe it's not victory. Maybe it's just punishment extended. Maybe continuing is cruelest outcome of all. You don't know. Can't know. Won't know until it's over. Until life ends. Until death provides the perspective that living denies. But sitting here watching sunset over Missouri hills, you know one thing. You survived. Almanzo survived. Rose survived. That's something. Maybe not everything. Maybe not enough. But something. Survival is something. Continuation is something. Not dying is something. And maybe, impossibly, dangerously foolishly, maybe Missouri will be different. Maybe this time will work. Maybe hope is justified. Maybe the last 40 years will prove that trying mattered, that suffering had purpose, that endurance earned reward. Or maybe not. Maybe Missouri brings new disasters. New suffering. New proof that geography doesn't matter and trying is futile and hope is delusion. You'll find out, soon enough, tomorrow, when work begins, when building starts, when the final attempt to prove frontier life is possible begins in earnest. But tonight you just sit, just breathe, just exist, grateful for sunset, grateful for Rose, grateful for Almanzo despite everything, grateful for survival despite cost, grateful for another day, another chance, another opportunity to prove that continuing matters even when continuing feels impossible. Tomorrow brings work, brings struggle, brings proof that Missouri is hard, but tonight brings rest, brings peace, brings momentary belief that maybe, this time will be different. And somewhere in Smet Cemetery, a small grave waits, unmarked for years. Finally marked decades later with simple stone. Baby son of A.J. Wilder. 3 weeks of life, 50 years of silence. A brother Rose never knew, a son Laura never discussed, a loss that shaped everything that came after. What really happened in those 3 weeks? Why did he die? What did Laura know that she never wrote? What truth was too painful to speak? What secret did she take to her grave about the baby nobody talks about? That story, the one Laura buried with her nameless son, that's the story nobody tells, until now.